As a full-level celestial master, you never go to subdue demons and evil spirits, but instead go to the police station to apply for the position of auxiliary police. When the chief asks you what you know, your answer directly shatters his worldview. This humble Taoist not only knows how to draw talismans, catch ghosts, refine elixirs, and pray for rain, but even summoning spirits is a piece of cake. I can definitely help solve cases, so just hire me. All because of you who came through time and space, awakening the divine-level celestial master system. However, the first task assigned by the system is to require you to apply to the police station. In the days to come, the chief never imagined there would be such a puzzling case in his lifetime. Even the wanted criminals had never seen anyone come to arrest them on a flying sword before, and even the most heinous murderers cried and begged you not to harm them. Today you just started your job and encountered a bus theft case. A middle-aged woman had her wallet stolen while riding the bus. In addition to her identification, there were also 20,000 yuan of life-saving money for her husband inside. In a moment of urgency, she immediately stopped the bus driver and asked everyone not to get off the bus. After the old police officer Jiang Ming understood the ins and outs of the matter, he brought you to the car to prepare to appease the crowd. Just as he got on the car, he heard the voice of the old lady who lost her belongings arguing with other passengers. My old man at home is waiting for money to save his life. Now that it's lost, how can I live? Listening to the dispute on the bus, Jiang Ming suddenly felt a headache. Ma'am, can you tell me? Who approached you just now? It's just those three. I think we can search them. The aunt pointed to the three men standing next to her. Although the three men looked unhappy, they still let the police search them. However, the result was nothing found. Officer, if necessary, just search each one of them. My money must be on these people. The old lady didn't care about that. She just wanted to find her wallet. But the other people on the bus immediately became unhappy. You lost something? Why should we be searched? Who did we offend by taking a bus? For a moment, Jiang Ming was also helpless. He was already prepared to search them. However, at this moment, you who are beside me suddenly started to calculate and recite a spell, saying, Zi Chou Yin Mao, Chen Si Wu Wei, Shen Yu Su Hai, using your left thumb to calculate in a clockwise direction on the 6 palm acupoints. Lost items will be found in the south. Urgently seek the heart's desire. Also beware of disputes. Keep a peaceful demeanor. The voice was neither loud nor soft, and everyone in the car heard it. What's going on? Is he really a police officer? Your gaze quickly fell on the middle-aged man sitting in the back row. Come out. The middle-aged man who was called out looked to be around 40 years old, dressed quite plainly, holding 2 plastic bags in his hands, looking like he had just come back from the market. Young man, what do you mean by this? Do you suspect me of being a thief? The middle-aged man said somewhat angrily. Hearing this, your face turned cold and stern. Feeling guilty? I asked you to come out, so stop talking nonsense, okay? What's your attitude? Do you believe I will report you? Let me tell you, I am a law-abiding citizen. Baseless, why suspect me of being a thief? You didn't say much, just grabbed the middle-aged man's arm with one hand and pulled him out directly, then snatched the plastic bag from the middle-aged man's hand. The middle-aged man who had suddenly been robbed was anxious and reached out to try to snatch it back. How dare you rob me in broad daylight? You didn't say a word. You opened the plastic bag directly, peeled back one of the outer leaves of the cabbage, and saw a light red wallet inside. What is this? You pointed to the light red wallet with a cold face. Instantly, the middle-aged man's face turned liver-colored, and he explained hesitantly, This is my wallet. The auntie next to her became extremely excited when she saw the light red wallet, grabbed it and opened it to check. When she found that the cash and documents inside were all there, she burst into tears of joy. Thank goodness the money is still there. That's great. You scared me. Jiang Ming widened his eyes at everything he witnessed, not knowing what to say for a moment. After a few breaths, he reacted and without much ado, directly used a chokehold on the middle-aged man. Following that, the others in the carriage applauded one after another. Isn't the speed of solving this case a bit too fast? But before the others could react, your hand was already placed on the shoulder of a young man next to you. Is this a group crime? Are you planning to confess? Or should I speak? The young man you held down is one of the three just now. His eyes became panicked. I don't know what you're talking about. You coldly smiled. Do you think that by not having the wallet on you, you can wash away suspicion and I won't be able to do anything to you? Changing the subject, you pointed at his shoes. Take off your shoes for me. The imposing manner of a top-notch expert is not something an ordinary person can resist. Although this thief has been in the business for a long time, he still couldn't withstand this kind of pressure and eventually obediently took off his shoes. You picked up the shoes and poured them onto the ground, revealing a pure gold ring in front of everyone. A pretty girl walked out of the crowd and quickly picked up the gold ring, exclaiming, Is this ring mine? At this moment, the thief cautiously asked, Officer, would I be considered surrendering in this state? Jiang Ming couldn't help but laugh and immediately handcuffed him, saying, What do you think? Let's go back to the station first. A burst of warm applause erupted again. And the people in the entire carriage looked at you with astonishment and admiration. Officer, you are really amazing. Can you really figure it out? Before you could speak, Jiang Ming on the side coughed awkwardly. What just happened was purely a coincidence. We must believe in science and handle cases scientifically. Halfway through his words, he couldn't help but laugh. The other passengers also had a smile on their faces, as if saying, yes, you are right. When they returned to the station, this incident quickly spread throughout the entire police station. Especially those young policewomen, one by one, they ran to pester Lin Tian with questions. Lin Tian, can you Taoist priests talk about your girlfriends and get married in the future? Lin Tian smiled breathlessly. Taoist priests aren't monks, there aren't that many precepts. Taoist priests are also able to start a family without these restrictions. So it's true, you really did the math to find the thief this time? Indeed, all the fortunes I read are accurate, yo. Master, then can you help me do some math? My sister doesn't know what's going on lately. She's at the important moment of her senior high school entrance exams, but she's been out of shape lately, and I don't know if she's been possessed by an evil spirit. What's your sister's name and give me her birth date? That little policewoman hurriedly reported her birth date to Lin Tian. Lin Tian pondered slightly, then smiled. Your sister is in her senior year of high school right now. What she chose shouldn't be an ordinary liberal arts and science subject, right? If I'm not mistaken, she's a music student? Snap. The little policewoman immediately applauded. Master Lin is awesome. A girl born at the cusp of the hour will be relatively generous and decent, but relatively rigid. Your sister is different from ordinary girls. She won't cry and cry when things go wrong. Instead she will have alternative concepts? Alternative? Very alternative indeed. The little policewoman stared for once. Your sister's problem isn't really that big of a deal. She would prefer a relatively mature guy, right? The expression of the little policewoman was a little embarrassed. As a sister, she usually naturally have talked about these topics with her sister. Indeed, from the conversation can also be learned that her sister has some uncle control. That's the problem. Enlighten her properly and she'll be fine. So that's how it is. The little policewoman instantly revealed an expression of sudden realization. All right? A male coworker next to him asked in surprise. The little policewoman didn't say anything, which amounted to acquiescence. Master Lin, so you're really this good at fortune-telling, why don't you do it for me as well? I'll do the math too, first give me the math. Master Lin, do you know how to read palm prints? One by one, the youngsters present scrambled forward, wanting Lin Tian to show them their faces. Cough cough. You guys are almost done, all pay attention to me. What is this place? The captain sitting next to him, Li Huabiao, reprimanded. The scene quieted down then. The guys bristled and went back to their respective posts. It is not that Li Huabiao wants to be angry, but as a captain he has to pay attention to the influence. This is a police station. How can we get this stuff in here? Nowadays, we can all advocate scientific case management. It's all about science, no matter what. That. Comrade Lin Tian, in the future you pay attention to a little bit. I know that your former body is a Taoist priest, but now you become a police officer, then you should follow our rules and regulations here to the office. Today's matter, although you have done a good job, the case is solved, but it is too risky. What if the thief isn't him? What if you miscalculated? Lin Tian smiled confidently. Captain Li, I've never been wrong in my fortune-telling. You have to be scientific in everything. Captain Li, can you remove your hat so I can take a look? What for? Although Li Huapiao was puzzled, he still removed his hat. Lin Tian took a few steps closer and fixed his eyes on it for a few moments, then said seriously, Captain Li, you can see a vague grayish meng at the location of your yin tang, and it's slightly black, so you might be in a bit of trouble. Li Huabiao was immediately infuriated and laughed. You're saying that my hull of seal is black. You won't want to say that I'll have a bloodbath in your next sentence, right? Not quite blackened, just a little gray and cloudy, and not so much a bloodbath as some minor bumps in the road. You this person. Li Huabiao was just about to say something when his cell phone rang, then gave Jiang Ming a wink and turned to walk out to answer the phone. Lin Tian, how can you talk to the captain like that? So many people are here, you have to see what this is. Place Jiang Ming had a bitter look on his face. Lin Tian innocently shrugged. I was just being kind. Some kindness? Yeah, I was just giving the captain a heads up. No need to remind me. Thanks for the kind words, I appreciate it. Pack up your things, grab your gear and head out with me. There's been a report of a Class A wanted man in the ruined factory to the west. Li Huabiao walked in solemnly and gave orders to those present. A class-wanted criminal is not a good to mess with the main, with a great danger. Li Huabiao very seriously, almost half of the police station's police force have been mobilized. Jiang Ming naturally brought Lin Tian to join this action at this time. Lin Tian, this kind of scene is rare. Today you'll be able to see it. Remember dangerous wanted criminals like this, you must be careful. They are ruthless. If you meet them in the future, you can't just make a move without absolute certainty. Jiang Ming was very serious about imparting his experience. Thank you, master, I understand. Understanding is good. This time you are mainly to go to the long and open eyes. A moment you watch on the line, you do not mess up. Lin Tian, after all, is just joined the auxiliary police, also not much foundation, also not from the police academy, need to slowly cultivate, like this dangerous wanted criminals, naturally by the experienced film police. It's easy for a novice to get into trouble when faced with such a dangerous wanted man. Lin Tian shrugged indifferently, then I'll just look at the hustle and bustle. Anyway, this hustle and bustle isn't necessarily visible. Chapter 5, The Odd Fellows Bureau Seekers. He'll show up. What do you mean? Today is the day of fulfillment, and now it's Captain Lee himself leading the team, so today is destined to be unlucky for Captain Lee. Jiang Ming laughed lightly and ignored it. Abandoned factories in the western suburbs. As early as 2 years ago the factory has been abandoned, the road has not been repaired, the road on both sides of the weeds, the surrounding deserted, usually no one will come over. But today's commotion was particularly loud, as a police car marched neatly along and soon arrived at the abandoned factory on the western outskirts of the city. Captain Lee, once the car started the action, led the police under the abandoned factory to the surrounded, and then in accordance with the usual action, personally lead the team to search the entire abandoned factory. It didn't take a second for Captain Lee to walk out with his men unwillingly. AI, always still a step too slow, letting them get away. Li Huabiao slapped his thigh in chagrin. You know that the top is very high on this wanted man, and if he can catch him, he'll definitely get credit for it. Too bad, God didn't give him that chance. Collect the team. The people had already run away, there was no use in staying here anymore. Li Huabiao directly let the film police close the team. Originally thought that things would end like this, did not expect that on the way back, Li Huabiao even sat in the same car with Lin Tian. Lin Tian, can you tell me honestly, how did you determine that those two people were thieves on the bus before? And the theft of the gold ring, the owner didn't even realize it, how did you find out? In fact, this was the thing that Li Huabiao was most puzzled and unable to figure out. There's a limit to what you can do even if you're lucky, right? If identifying the grocery shopper can be a coincidence, the ring thing doesn't make sense at all. It was as if Lin Tian had predicted it in advance. Captain Lee, I did all the math. That kind of thing counts? Of course, I specialize in the art of fortune-telling, I know astronomy from above and geography from below, and my trigrams can be psychic, so predicting the future is no big deal. Lin Tian smiled confidently. Li Huabiao was half convinced. You said your trigrams can be psychic, good, then I'll give you a chance to prove it. You do the math. Where is that class A wanted criminal? Ha ha. Lin Tian laughed up to the sky. No problem. Is there any paper and pen, as well as the specific information of that wanted man? There. Without any hesitation, Li Huabiao handed over a notebook and a pen to Lin Tian. Lin Tian casually took it and asked, the person you're looking for, what is the year, month and day of birth in the Gregorian calendar as well as the year, month and day of birth in the lunar calendar? Li Huabiao had a complete record of the information in his cell phone, and at this time, he hurriedly pulled out the information for Lin Tian to see. None of you should speak. Lin Tian left behind this sentence and then began to draw and write on his notes. The people in the car didn't dare to speak, and Li Huabiao and Jiang Ming looked sideways at the notebook. However, they couldn't understand any of those written by Lin Tian. After about a few minutes, Lin Tian stopped his hand movements and then handed the notebook to Li Huabiao. Li Huabiao received it with some excitement and took a look. His face instantly collapsed. It's like a grid of squares with some gung-ho writing. It's crushingly unreadable. Jiang Ming also had a question mark on his face after seeing the content. This is one of the Chi Mandan Jia's methods of finding people. Lin Tian explained. So what does it say here? In the Chiman Bureau, C represents the person you are looking for, C falls in Burgundy Palace at the head of the birth of the prosperous land, C under the proding, ding is the star Chi, under the opening of the door for the auspicious door, these are auspicious symbols, the state of the palace is not in the evil, which means that you are looking for someone who will not be in danger in the near future. Gung is the planet of disaster, falling in the Ken Palace is water. The day stem C falls in the Burgundy Palace is earth, earth grasps water, he grasps disaster, which means that he can handle these things completely, and it is estimated that he won't fall in the net in a short period of time. Lin Tian faintly explained. No way? It won't fall out of the net in a short period of time, I really don't believe it, now that the top pays great attention to it and is very strong, can he escape? Li Huabiao obviously did not believe. Lin Tian, let's not talk about this first, can you figure out where he is? From the orientation, C falls in the Burgundy Palace, which represents the northeast direction, and G falls in the Ken Palace, which represents the northeast direction. The distance is not far, it should be in the downtown area. What? Downtown? Don't you give me this joke, now the intensity is so big, but any scene, immediately will be reported, this is paid. He no matter how stupid will not dare to drill into the downtown area, right? Li Huabiao some disapproval of the speculation. I mean, he's in the downtown area now, but not necessarily next, and often the most dangerous place is the safest place. The Chiman Bureau shows that Gung plus C, which signals the imminent arrival of a pedestrian, which means he will be disguised as a walker and generally unrecognizable, as well as C plus Gung, which means that there is no trace of him. But there's another breaking point, Gunga Aoi, which means he'll return again, so you get the idea, right? Return again? Li Huabiao stroked his chin and couldn't answer even after closing it for half a day. It was Jiang Ming who pushed Lin Tian. Just make it clearer, we don't understand these things. Lin Tian shrugged helplessly. It's very simple. Before you guys received a report that he appeared in an abandoned factory in the western suburbs. When we went there, he had already escaped, and just now when I said return again, it's that he'll go back to hiding in the silica gel abandoned factory again, which is returning again. As for what I said about Singagung, it means that his disguise is flawless and he can't be recognized even if he passes by us, so there's no trace of him, and right now our breakthrough point is the abandoned factory in silica gel, so he's bound to go back. No wonder he is a Class A wanted criminal, he really has some brains. The most dangerous place is the safest place. The abandoned factories in the western suburb have been lined up by us. If he returns again, naturally we can't check him. Do you understand if you put it this way? Rip. Li Huabiao sucked in a mouthful of cold air. His mind was thinking rapidly, glancing at Lin Tian every now and then. Now he was considering whether to believe it or not. With the current situation, it seemed like all he could do was try. It's better to kill than to let go. Li Huabiao clenched his teeth, then took out his cell phone and called, Xiao Lu, take Xiao Zhang with you and ambush the abandoned factory in the western suburb. Remember to be stealthy, don't let anyone find out, keep in touch, and notify immediately if there is any situation. Now Li Huabiao could only treat the dead horse as a living horse. Lin Tian smiled and said, Captain Li, you're right to trust me, he will definitely show up. According to the Chiman Bureau, at most 3 hours, the target person will definitely appear in the field of vision, but you have to be careful, his disguise may be very skillful. Good. You too remember, no matter if it's the target person or not, as long as someone appears, you will notify me at the first time, and remember not to scare the snakes. Chapter 6, What Old Man Scavenging? That's a target person. That. Captain, you really believe it? Jiang Ming asked carefully. What else could it be? Do you have another opinion? Li Huabiao glared. Now he was only holding the mentality of trying. It could only be a dead horse, real or not. The top paid so much attention to this wanted man. If he could be arrested by them, it would definitely be a great achievement. Who wouldn't want a promotion and a raise? Not even the slightest chance to miss it. Jiang Ming couldn't say anything about this, he could only look at the results first. In fact, Jiang Ming was also curious as to whether this fortune-telling by Lin Tian was accurate or not. Lin Tian had just said that the target would appear within 3 hours. 3 hours isn't a long time, and the answer will be known soon enough. After returning to the bureau, it hadn't been enough for 3 hours before Lin Tian and Jiang Ming were called into the conference room. Li Huabiao's face was a bit unsightly now. Lin Tian, you're not allowed to tell your fortune. No? The target didn't show up? Or no one showed up at the abandoned factory in the western suburbs? Lin Tian wasn't flustered at all and was confident. Li Huabiao sighed out. It's better to handle cases scientifically in the future. I don't quite understand what you mean. Captain, what's the situation really like? Did anyone go to the abandoned factory in the western suburbs or not? Jiang Ming was also eager to know the results. There was, but the target didn't show up. Just an old scavenger. Scavenging old man? This is the photo they sent back. Li Huabiao directly pulled out a photo from his cell phone, which was taken and sent back by the plainclothes police officers who were ambushed there. The photo shows an old scavenger man, pack-sacked, with a walking stick in his hand and a sack on his back filled with bottles and cans. The old man's skin was dark, his face was wrinkled, and he didn't look like he was in disguise from any direction. That's him, Captain Li can do it. Lin Tian didn't hesitate to speak after seeing this photo. It's okay to do it? Are you crazy? This is just a scavenging old man. You're asking us to make a move on him. Who's going to be responsible for this in case we get it wrong? Li Huabiao almost didn't jump out of his skin. It's a big thing. Nowadays, the network is so developed, the slightest carelessness will be exposed, and then there will be constant trouble, a bad one. There is a possibility that even the captain's position will be lost. Didn't I say so before? This prisoner has made a disguise, and his disguise is so nearly faultless that he can be traced to the point of being unrecognizable even as he waltzes past us, and it is true that he is unrecognizable now in this form, and looks flawless. Not exactly? Li Huabiao rubbed his chin. What you said seems to make sense. Even if he's an old man scavenging, then why would he go there? A place like the abandoned factory in the western suburb where no one would basically go there on weekdays. What scavenger would go there? Lin Tian continued. Li Huabiao was unable to refute for a moment. Do it, he's the wanted man. Li Huabiao slightly hesitated, and finally made up his mind, only to see him take out his cell phone and give orders to the two plainclothes. Bring that scavenging old man back first. Where do you come up with so many words? Let you bring it back, and you two be careful. After hanging up the phone, Li Huabiao exhaled heavily and adjusted his mind. Jiang Ming couldn't help himself. Captain, are you really going to bring that old man back? Aren't you afraid of repercussions? Li Huabiao naturally has his own considerations, rather kill a mistake than let it go. This is his style of doing things, not to mention that he brought that scavenging old man back. In case it is not, as long as a good explanation, it will not be too much trouble. Right in the middle of the conversation between the few of them, Li Huabiao's cell phone rang eagerly. What's wrong? What? Okay, I got it. You wait where you are, I'll send the guys in the neighborhood over to cooperate. Hanging up the phone, Li Huabiao couldn't care less about saying so much, immediately went out from the conference room. Everyone immediately mobilized. The western suburb of the abandoned factory has found the wanted criminal's trail, now it has been subdued. The people in the vicinity use the fastest speed to rush over to reinforcement and get an ambulance there immediately. Someone's been hurt. Hearing this, the people present didn't dare to hesitate and began to move out one after another. Li Huabiao at this time cannot take into account so much, with the people hurriedly rushed to the western suburbs of the abandoned factory. It didn't take long for the party to return. This time there was also an additional person wearing a hood. That man is the A-list fugitive they're looking for. At this moment, Li Huabiao had a big smile on his face. After arranging the prisoners, Li Huabiao found Lin Tian at the first opportunity. Lin Tian, this time it's really thanks to you, otherwise we would have definitely missed this opportunity. Your skill of fortune-telling and divination is just too powerful. Don't worry, this time we will definitely give you a first-class credit. Li Huabiao was now completely convinced of Lin Tian's abilities. If it wasn't for Lin Tian, this time, he definitely wouldn't have been able to arrest this wanted criminal, because the two plainclothesmen at that time didn't even think about making a move. The prisoner was too cunning, and those disguises of his, almost to the point of derangement, could not be detected with the eye, and only. It's only when there's real hands-on time that you realize that hunchback of his is fake, and his skin and all that, it's all pasted on. It was when the two plainclothes policemen were about to take him back to the police station that the prisoner sank, and it was because of this that one of the plainclothesmen was injured. Luckily, though, the injury wasn't fatal and would heal with some rest. If this was still luck, unless he, Li Huabiao, had a pit in his brain, because from the very beginning Lin Tian had already helped him calculate clearly and distinctly. Then thank you, Captain Li. Lin Tian arched his hand and smiled. Don't say thank you, it should be me thanking you. Li Huabiao's mood now was not sure how good it was. After this wanted criminal had fallen into the net, his credit was not small. Wait. This just finished. Li Huabiao's face suddenly changed. He seemed to remember something. That. Lin Tian. Isn't right, Master Lin? I remember you said before that my seal was black and that I would have a bloodbath soon? When talking about this matter, Li Huabiao's face instantly collapsed. Nima. Almost forgot about that. Who wouldn't be afraid of a bloodbath? Lin Tian laughed out loud. Indeed, but your forehead only has a slight gray haze, at most. It's just some minor trouble to endure some skin and flesh pain. Chapter 7. If you can't explain it, then ask the spirits to ask you in person. Skin and flesh suffering? Li Huabiao was alarmed. Master Lin, give me a good look. Is there any way to block the disaster? That shouldn't be necessary, should it? It's just a little thing, and it's not exactly a disaster. Li Huabiao smiled bitterly. You're talking about skin and flesh, small things? Okay, show me your left hand. Li Huabiao cooperated and put his hand out. After Lin Tian took a brief look, he revealed a smile. It's not a big problem. Your lifeline is very long and deep. You won't be in danger of losing your life. On the contrary, you're very tenacious. So I have a blackened seal and this is? You don't have much of a problem with your career line either. The problem comes from your emotional line, but you should be able to work it out skillfully. That's where the skin comes from. You mean my skinny comes from home? Aha. So is this going to be blocked? No, it's not a big problem, and it's probably good for you. Looking at Lin Tian's serious expression, Li Huabiao then let out a sigh of relief. Alright then, coming from home, that's alright. That's kind of the end of the story. But Lin Tian's ability to tell fortunes spread more and more in the bureau. Now the bureau didn't know how many people were scrambling to get a face reading from Lin Tian. After all, many people had learned that this time, the arrest of the class of most wanted was entirely due to Lin Tian's Chi-Men Dunjia. If such things could be calculated so accurately, then the skill of those who read their faces must not be bad. All pay attention to point, all pay attention to point. There are masses here to watch it. You see now like what to do. Jiang Ming blasted away those co-workers. After all, it is now working hours. This is someone over to report a crime. Was seen the impact is really not good. It just so happened that Jiang Ming also had something to do when he came over to find Lin Tian at this time. Lin Tian, come with me on a mission. Jiang Ming's brows were furrowed as if he had encountered some troublesome case. Master, did you encounter some big case? Lin Tian asked as he got into the passenger side of the police car. It's not a big case, it's just that this case is a bit weird. Team Li has already named me to go with you to understand the situation. Jiang Ming directly started the car and said while walking. In fact, this case is not a particularly big case comparatively speaking, that is, there are heavy suspicions in this case. The victim's name is Zhou Tong, age 45. A month ago, Zhou Tong left a suicide note and jumped into the river. Originally, this was a very common suicide case, basically going through a process to finalize the case. However, a lot of suspicions have since emerged, resulting in the case not progressing much and the victim's family strongly requesting a clear investigation. The suspicion of the case lies in a friend of Zhou Tong's, named Zhou Bailing. They are from the same village, can be said to have grown up together. Zhou Tong talked to Zhou Bailing continuously for an hour before committing suicide. In the week leading up to this, Zhou Tong had been on the phone with Zhou Bailing. There were also special people who went to Zhou Beiling to find out before, and Zhou Beiling also explained to them about the content of the conversation, and the content of the chat was basically some memories about their childhood, as well as chatting about their recent lives. There is, of course, a key phrase in this. By the end of the call, after Zhou Beiling's explanation, Zhou Tong's last words were, "I'm still so rotten, I owe you to pay back in the next life." That's exactly what happened, and now the deceased's family is biting on the fact that this has something to do with Zhou Beiling, because Zhou Tong owes Zhou Beiling $100,000. Jiang Ming sighed helplessly. This kind of case is the most difficult to deal with. The death is not evidence, but the family of the deceased is suspicious, and now the case does not know how to deal with it. Captain Li cannot handle himself. The most critical thing is that the family of the deceased came over to make trouble on the third day. We are under great pressure. Lin Tian, do you have any solution for this matter? There is naturally a way, nothing that cannot be solved by fortune-telling. That's good. Soon, Jiang Ming brought Lin Tian to the deceased's home. Zhou Tong's daughter-in-law called Li Tsuhua. There is a child who is in junior high school, the family out of such a big thing, the child naturally also stay at home. Zhou Tong's mother was likewise present. Officer, how's the investigation going? Did Zhou Beiling kill my husband? You guys must give us justice. In the time before, Zhou Beiling had been urging my husband to pay back the money and had been forcing us. It must have been him who forced my husband to die. Li Tsuewa's tearful eyes clunked. Don't get agitated first, take care of your condolences, we will definitely investigate clearly and return justice to you. Jiang Ming comforted. Officers, it's been hard on you. Zhou Tong's mother said. It's fine, this is what we should do, let's wait for a while, Zhou Beiling will come over soon. Zhou Beiling had already been notified when Jiang Ming came over. Not a moment later, Zhou Beiling arrived. It looked like Zhou Beiling was still mixing pretty well, and he wasn't dressed badly either. The profile also shows that he owns a small supermarket and earns a decent income. Officer, I've said it many times, Zhou Tong's matter really has nothing to do with me. I was always trying to persuade him to stop gambling, but he just wouldn't listen. It looked like Zhou Beiling had been annoyed for a very multiple times. This one came up full of misery. Because what's going on right now is simply not clear. How is it not your business? How many times have you forced him? As soon as Li Tsuehua heard this, she immediately became fierce. That wasn't exactly forcing him, I just wanted him to go back to the right path. Zhou Beiling was 100 times more bitter. Alright, you guys stop arguing for now. Looking at the two sides about to quarrel, with the scene so chaotic, Jiang Ming hurriedly interrupted. Then he dropped his gaze on Lin Tian. Lin Tian, what do you think? Lin Tian looked at the situation at the scene before stroking his chin again. This situation, I guess, is indeed a bit complicated, but it's not without a solution. What exactly do I have to do? Jiang Ming was filled with anticipation. In this way I will first count the trigrams to see how the exact situation is, and if I really can't explain it clearly by then, I will have to invite his soul up to ask him clearly face to face. Recruiting souls? The people present spoke in unison, looking at Lin Tian with shocked faces. Yes, it is also possible to appear in other ways, and in this current situation, it is not impossible to appear in the form of possession. Aren't you? You a cop? Li Tsuehua asked stupidly. Yes, I am indeed a police officer now, but my predecessor was a Taoist priest. I can do all sorts of Qi Men Dun Jia, Yin, and Yang spells. Lin Tian faintly said. Li Tsuehua was once again confused. Are the police this involved in cases nowadays? Even the Taoist priests are out? What kind of case is this? Recruiting spirits to ask for clarification in person? Chapter 8, letting you solve a case, you ask for a mithril? Wait. Jiang Ming was a little confused for a moment when he heard the word invocation. Lin Tian, did you just say that you want to invoke the souls of the dead to come up here and talk about it face to face? There's such an operation? Will this work? When it came to fortune-telling, Jiang Ming definitely believed Lin Tian 100%, but for something like invoking the soul, who would dare to believe it? You know it's a case now. It'll work. Lin Tian replied with incomparable certainty. Wait, young man, did you just say that you can recruit all my sons up here? Zhou Tong's mother was old, and usually old people of this age still had a certain degree of belief in such things. Well, it can be. But you're still so young, can you really do it? Zhou Tong's mother looked Lin Tian up and down, with a strong question in her eyes. After all, Lin Tian was simply too young, and usually when a youngster of this age stage said that they knew these psychic techniques, they would usually scoff. I say officer, it's this time, please stop joking around. When exactly is this case going to be finished? It's endless, when is it going to end? Zhou Beiling wanted to cry. Humph, now you know it's not over? When you forced my husband before, why didn't you think about having such consequences? Li Tsuehua coldly snorted. Don't you guys get in a hurry to argue, wait until I call up the dead and figure out what you're going to argue about when I do, okay? Young man, I see that you're wearing this police uniform, I'll give you a few points of face. I believe you when you say you're a Taoist priest, but I've never heard of Taoist priests being able to solve crimes. Li Tsuehua was extremely displeased. Then how about giving it a try? Jiang Ming was clearly lacking in confidence now, but he had no other choice but to let Lin Tian try first. Li Tsuo rolled her eyes, obviously not believing in this outrageous method of handling the case, and simply brushed her head aside, ignoring Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming could only awkwardly drop his gaze on Zhou Tong's mother. The old man thought for a moment, then asked, "What do you want to do? Have you guys ever heard of asking for a meter psychic? Ask for rice? You know how to ask for rice?" Zhou Tong's mother stared wide-eyed, her face full of surprise. The whole asking for rice thing was something she had tried before, but the ones she had found were basically goddesses, all of them old men. Asking for rice psychic is basically inviting the dead souls of the netherworld up to talk to their families in a possessed manner, but for this kind of thing, the general public is only half-heartedly seeking psychological comfort, and now they are even saying that they want to use asking for rice to solve the case. It was unbelievable. Even Zhou Tong's mother thought for a while that Lin Tian was a liar. Yes or no, you will know when his spirit is called up. Okay, let's give it a try then. Zhou Tong's mother also held the mentality of giving it a try. After obtaining the family's consent, Lin Tian did not hesitate any longer and seriously instructed, "Prepare a square table and place it here, facing the doorway. Then prepare me another bowl of rice, some vegetables and fruits which are excellent, and another pear." Yeah, no problem. Soon things were ready. The table was facing the doorway, a bowl of rice, and vegetables and fruits. Some offerings were placed on the tabletop. Lin Tian cut the pre-prepared pears into 2 halves, and then placed them flat in front of him. A lighted red candle is inserted on one side and 3 sticks of incense on the other. The entire time Lin Tian's face was incredibly serious. After doing this, Lin Tian waved his hand at Jiang Ming, "Come over here and follow me in a moment to recite." Me? Well. Jiang Ming smiled awkwardly, although he didn't know what to do, he still came to Lin Tian's side. "Sacrifice the land first, ox head and horseface ghost pawns, bring back Zhou Tong quickly, I am ordered by the land urgently." Although Jiang Ming had never done it before, he still chanted the incantation out loud at this time, following Lin Tian's tone. When Jiang Ming finished reciting the incantation, Lin Tian quickly grabbed a handful of rice on the table and sprinkled it towards the front. This was followed by picking up another handful of paper money and waving it in front of him. The paper money in the sky began to fly at once. It's the buy-in for the Nomon tongue. After these paper money floated down to the ground, Lin Tian once again picked up a handful of rice and sprinkled it towards Jiang Ming. Jiang Ming subconsciously closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, Jiang Ming's entire being changed, his eyes became slightly confused, and when the confusion in his eyes gradually dissipated, panic appeared in his eyes. "Alright, now that Zhou Tong's soul has been invoked up, if there's anything you guys want to ask, just ask." Lin Tian smiled confidently and sat straight on the stool next to him. "Are you really my son?" Zhou Tong's mother asked cautiously, her eyes constantly sizing up Jiang Ming. "Mom, it's really you, why am I here?" Jiang Ming subconsciously looked at his hands. What a pretense. Li Tsuehua shook her head and laughed. She naturally wouldn't believe this bull asking for rice to invoke spirits. "Tsuehua, what are you talking about? I'm Tong. Che, you say yes, you think I'm a 3-year-old kid. You are the woman that drove me to my death." However, Jiang Ming's eyes moistened up and his tone was even more gnashing of teeth. Li Tsuehua at this moment was a bit flustered and subconsciously took 2 steps back. This tone, this feeling was really exactly the same as Zhou Tong. "Are you really Hua?" The old man also felt Zhou Tong's presence. 2 lines of tears couldn't help but slide down. After all, the white hair is sent to the black hair. She didn't even see the last sight of her son, now naturally excited. Puff! The possessed Jiang Ming directly fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, I'm sorry. I am unfilial, rotten mud cannot help the wall. I have no face to be your son. My son will give you filial piety in his next life," said Zhou Tong, then deducted 3 ringing heads. "Very hard, you can hear the thud. He's not Zhou Tong, so you guys should stop acting." Li Tsuehua couldn't accept such a fact. "What's the act, Li Tsuehua? If it wasn't for you pushing me all day long, I wouldn't have gotten addicted to gambling, and I wouldn't have lost all my money. It's all because of you, you're the one who pushed me to the brink, you vicious woman." Zhou Tong's eyes glared deathly at Li Tsuehua. "Officer, this." Zhou Beiling was confused, and for a moment he felt a little embarrassed, because he did not believe in such a thing as invoking spirits. "Old 100, thank you, I know all the ones you did, thank you, you still lent me money when I was in the most difficult time, but it's me who was rotten, it's me who dragged you down. I know that you urged me to pay back the money is not your intention, you want to force me to go back to the right path, I know all these. I'm sorry." Chapter 9, the truth comes out, and it's a long way to go. "Ever since I was little, you've always protected me. In the past, at school, I bullied me all day long, and you were the only one who helped me, and when I grew up, I was useless on my own, and it was you who helped me. And that thing with the swimming in the past, if you hadn't covered for me, I would have felt guilty just thinking about it. Old 100, I'm sorry." With that, Zhou Tong knelt down for Zhou Beiling. Zhou Beiling was struck by lightning and her eyes were huge. Now he was basically certain that Zhou Tong's soul had really been invoked up. Because of the one-eyed thing, the general characters simply don't know, and he has never told the police. As for the swimming thing, that is even more no one else knows, almost belongs to the 2 of them as a secret. "Ah Tong, you Good, and why do you want to kill yourself? Didn't I say I would help you? Joe Bailing sighed. All because of this woman, all day long are forcing me. I have desperately to make money, but still cannot satisfy, and the matter of borrowing money, she forced me to open my mouth. I was momentarily confused. Said, Joe Tong sobbed uncontrollably. You, don't talk nonsense, I didn't force you. Li Tsuehua hastened to sophistry. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gone down this road. I was so blind when I first got hitched to such a foodie devil as you. Our son is already so big, and you still care about your brother all day long. How much of my hard-earned money has gone into your brother's pocket? Don't you know that in your own mind? Who paid for his car? How much did we chip in for the down payment on the house? Don't you say it, it's all your own fault for being incapable. Li Tsuehua interrupted furiously. Snap. As soon as the words fell, Jotong's mother slapped Li Tsuehua's face. This slap directly dumbfounded Li Tsuehua. Mom, I knew it was you forced my son to die. Mom, don't listen to him. Whether it's nonsense or not, check the accounts and you'll know. Your bank cards basically have records. Lin Tian, who was sitting next to him, suddenly spoke. Li Tsuehua was already at a disadvantage, and her speech became stammered. Officer, this matter really has nothing to do with Old 100. The reason why I gambled my family away is because this woman forced me to do so. No matter how hard I try, I can't fill this back in. You guys can go and see how much money I borrowed on the internet. We can't even fill this in right now. So I thought I'd put up a fight. Zhou Tong told the whole story at this time. Li Tsuehua stood aside, her head lowered, not daring to speak. Zhou Tong's mother glanced at Zhou Tong. Son, can we have a few words alone? Soon, Zhou Tong entered the room with the old man to talk. It didn't take long for the two to come out. And Jiang Ming had recovered by this time. Jiang Ming had no idea about what had just happened, so he had a confused look on his face. Officer, it's really troublesome for you these days. We won't pursue the matter of our own family. It's a family matter that belongs to us. We'll solve it ourselves. When the old man said this, he glared back at Li Tsuehua. The situation was now understood by her. Jiang Ming was dumbfounded. According to the procedure, all the evidence now points to Zhou Tong committing suicide. If that's your attitude, then we can cancel the case when we get back. Lin Tian stood up and said. Okay, write off the case, we'll let it go. With this statement from the family, the case is considered closed for good. Officer Lin, you are so young and have such a high level of Taoism. Your future is unlimited in the future. This time you helped me so much and let me see my son for a while. I don't even know how to thank you. How about I kneel down for you? Don't ever do this, old man, aren't you torturing me? Lin Tian hurriedly supported the old man, kneeling down for him at a big age. He couldn't afford it. Ouch, what's wrong with my forehead? Jiang Ming then noticed some pain on his forehead, then took out his cell phone and took a picture. Wow, what happened to my forehead? How come it's red all over? Pust. That's the end of this one case. Jiang Ming also inquired carefully before leaving. On the way back, the way Jiang Ming looked at Lin Tian could be even more different. Master Lin, how are you so powerful that you can even do something like invoking spirits? It wasn't Jiang Ming's turn to disbelieve in this situation now. After all, the case had been at a standstill before, and the deceased's family was very firm. But after Lin Tian asked the meter to recruit souls, his attitude immediately changed. Moreover, Jiang Ming understood the whole process clearly, and now the admiration in his heart was like a torrential river, unceasing. Previously he thought that those are some Jianghu cheating, in the end is only to seek a psychological comfort, but now he counted the eye-opening. This nifty thing still works like this. That's a long way to go. Ask Rice Psychic. This is something that a lot of people know about, but there really aren't a lot of people who have actually experienced something that really works. The story spread quickly through the bureau. Not only did the word spread around the station, but the story quickly. It's also spreading out there. Early the next morning, the entrance to the police station was packed. Let us meet Officer Lin. No, it should be let us meet Master Lin. He's so good at fortune telling and knows how to ask for rice. I haven't seen my husband for a long time. Can you make it easy? Officer Lin, this is something you must help me. My mom left before, didn't tell me where the family heirloom was placed. So far we can't find it. If Officer Lin doesn't help me, I probably won't be able to find it in my life. In the face of this large crowd, Captain Li Huabiao said he was very speechless. Here is a police station, to say as being thief stole something, or lost something important over to report the case, that also even if, now something is lost, but to find something. Is this not too out of line? There is no way. For the sake of the stability of the situation, the Captain Li Huabiao can only find an excuse to send them away. They are here as the bureau, not a temple. Master Lin, now you're a powerful man, so many people know your name. Yes, there are a lot of famous police officers, they are basically famous for solving crimes. Master Lin, you are good, you are famous for divination and fortune-telling. Now everyone is scrambling over to find you to read the face and ask for rice. It turns out that dogs and cops are such a good fit. Lin 10. Just as everyone was chatting, two people came to the station. Chapter 10. Where there is water and you can't get near it. They were dressed very seriously, and the one leading them was a man who looked very imposing. His name was Zhong Bo. He was the leader of the task force, while the other person was the Captain Li Huabiao. Zhang Bo is the leader of the task force. In this neighborhood, this area is equally very famous, because he is also a capable person. In the past, a lot of tricky cases have been solved in his hands. Lin Tian, let me introduce you. This is Officer Zhang from the task force. Hello Master Lin, I'm Zhang Bo. I've heard that there's something special about the way you handle cases. Right now we've encountered a case that's very prickly. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, Master Lin? Zhang Bo shook hands while going straight to the point. One can try. With a case to work on, Lin Tian was naturally interested. We are recently tracking down the matter of child abductors and traffickers. Recently such a gang came to the East China Sea. They are very cunning and cautious. We have already repeatedly laid out our plans, but we were unable to do anything about it. Master Lin, see if you can figure out where they are hiding now. Zhang Bo also came over to take a look with the intention of giving it a try. Recently, Lin Tian had really shown, solving several cases in a row, something that simply couldn't be explained. Especially the A-level wanted criminals that Chi Men Dunya. Zhang Bo had analyzed it many times and failed to find the reason for it. And he's been so worried about this case lately that he just happened to come over and give it a try. Officer Zhang, it's not that big of a deal to figure it out, but even if you know where they are, it doesn't necessarily put them in their place. After all, there's no evidence. Lin Tian laughed. This is fine, we just need to know where they are, we'll do the rest. Zhang Bo patted his chest and assured. Give me their information. Eh? Zhang Bo scratched his head with some embarrassment. We only know that there is such a gang, but we don't know who they are, so there isn't much information at hand. Not even one? Lin Tian couldn't help but roll his eyes. Nice guy. There's nothing here. I don't even know who it is or what their name is. How can I find out? To be honest, we received a tip-off that this gang came to us, and we don't know if it was by chance or on purpose, so the clues we have in our hands are very few and far between, but our superiors are taking it very seriously because this gang has done a lot of child trafficking deals, and their sins are deep. Alright. Lin Tian sighed helplessly, then cocked his head and thought, this is indeed a bit hard to get. Name, address, object, not even a hair on the other person's head. Looks like we'll just have to use word trigrams. Saying that, Lin Tian found a blank white paper and a pen and handed it to Zhang Bo. Feel free to write a word on it. Writing? Write what? Whatever, you can write whatever words you want. Zhang Bo hesitated for a moment, then wrote the word law on the white paper. After Lin Tian asked him for his birth date, he began to tell his fortune. Writing and telling trigrams, which is considered an older form of trigramming. Unlike ordinary fortune telling, the general fortune telling will only ask for the 8 characters of the birth date, from which the person's destiny can be judged. The 8 characters of the birth date involve the heavenly stem and the earthly branches, which have their own attributes of the 5 elements, and their existence is mutually reinforcing, so that the changes are infinite. The strength of a Taoist priest not only depends on how much he knows, but also on their judgment, which is why so many fortune tellers count out different results. And writing and telling fortunes is not about destiny, it's about where it's going in the near future. By using the heavenly stems and earthly branches in the birth character and combining them with the words he wrote down, one can deduce his recent trend. Officer Zhang is a very straightforward person, and he should be under quite a bit of pressure lately, right? It's really big. How did you know? You wrote the word law, which shows that you are eager to bring the culprit to justice, and that the law is greater than mercy, which shows that Officer Zhang usually handles cases with the same attitude and style. Snap. Zhang Bo couldn't help but applaud. Then can Master Lin calculate the breakthrough point? The word law breaks down to 3 dots of water and a word go. What the 3 dots represent is water, which means there should be water flowing where Officer Chung's subject is. Where there's a current? That's a lot of places. The East China Sea was originally a coastal area, relatively close to the sea, and there were also rivers within, just by virtue of the current, which was not at all able to determine the location of the target. I haven't finished my words yet. Officer Zhang, your birth character has a heavenly stem of gold and an earthly branch of fire, which are mutually exclusive, and the word go means you can't go. I can't go? What do you mean? Can you make it clearer? Zhang Bo was confused. That means there are currents of water, places you can't go, or places you wouldn't normally go, so think about what exactly that would be. There's a current and I can't go. That one. Can you give specific directions? Then I'll simply send you a location. Lin Tian said breathlessly. I'm sorry, I'm the one in a hurry, so let me think about it. Zhang Bo couldn't think of any good answers for a moment. Old Zhang, do you still need to think about this matter? The one in your family has such a strict control. Usually when you go to work on a case, you can go to any place, but there is only one place you won't go to, yourself. The child doesn't want to go, this you can't figure out? Li Huabiao usually had a better relationship with Zhang Bo and couldn't help but remind him at this moment. It was then that Zhang Bo slapped his thigh. I know. The last place I want to go is a bar, to say which bars are bordered by water flow. Quickly, hurry to check it. Zhang Bo immediately started to check after he reacted. Soon he had his target pegged. There's only one other bar near the current. Nantucket Bar. But it's a downtown area. Do those gangs of traffickers really stay in places like that? Zhang Bo was a bit hesitant for a moment. Master Lin, are you sure? Well, pretty sure. So what are we going to do now? Let's go over and take a look first. Lin Tian proposed. But Zhongbo's expression was a bit hesitant. I can't go to the bar because I have problems with my ears. The music in the bar is too shocking. If I go in, I guess I have to lie down and come out. This is the reason why Zhongbo does not go to the bar. His ears are born with a problem. If he enters the bar, the shocking music will make his ears cannot stand. Then it will be a real problem. But it's alright, Master Lin. Then I'll trouble you to go with me. Oldly, you shouldn't have anything to do, right? Want to cooperate with me? Well, no problem. You are the task force. I definitely want to cooperate with your work. Besides, with our friendship, I definitely help you. Li Hua Biao agreed quickly. The three then drove out on the mission together. The entrance to Nantucket Bar. It's not even business hours yet. The bar is very lightly trafficked, the entrance is quiet, and on the surface it looks like there are no clues at all. Master Lin, we are now. Wait and see. Lin Tian interrupted Zhongbo. Chapter 11, there it is. Brothers, lend me a hand. If Lin Tian had said so, Zhongbo and Li Huabiao naturally couldn't say anything. Now that they had changed into civilian clothes, there happened to be some resting tables not far outside the bar, and they just sat there, drinking water and chatting, as if they had come over as tired tourists. Donghai itself is a tourist city with great scenery and a huge population flow, and it's not any surprise that tourists take a break here. After waiting for almost half an hour, a man appeared from the bar. Looking to be in his 30s and dressed quite normally, he seemed to have come to the bar, judging by his attire. Nua, the person you're looking for has appeared. Lin Tian looked at the middle-aged man who came out of the bar and said, "He's the target? How do you know?" Bellwether wondered. He has a narrow forehead between his eyebrows are very light, his eyes are evil. This is usually the case when there is blood on his hands, and then look at his demeanor. Although he looks like he's forcibly pretending to be calm, the truth is that he is wary. In reality, there are ghosts in his heart, and even if he's not the target person, he's definitely the guilty one. Don't worry, there's no mistaking it. That's how you judge? Just one look at the face and you're so sure? Zhongbo rolled his eyes. Sure. Zhongbo hesitated slightly, then clenched his teeth. I think I can follow it first. I'll do it. Lin Tian stood up after dropping this sentence and walked towards the man. Hey, what are you doing? Don't scare the snakes. Zhongbo thought that Lin Tian was going to make a move and wanted to stop him, but now that Lin Tian had already walked over, even if he wanted to stop him, he couldn't. Lin Tian walked towards the man while pulling out a cigarette from his pocket and spiking it on his mouth, then felt left and right, half unable to pull out a lighter, just as the man passed by. Bro, lend me a fire. Lin Tian patted the man's shoulder. The man gave Lin Tian an impatient look. No fire. Lin Tian bristled. Brother, refusing to lend a fire, how petty. Although the voice was not loud, it was taken in completely by the man's ears, and the man instantly became unhappy and frowned back. What are you talking about? What did I say? I didn't say anything. Lin Tian had the look of a dead pig. This can make the man angry. If you have the ability to say it again, what is it? I will not lend it to you even if I have a fire. Pull back if you don't borrow it. Look at you covered in fire. After saying that, Lin Tian walked away without lifting his head. Stop, you old man. I told you to stop. Did you hear me? Asterisk. The more the man shouted, the more Lin Tian acted as if he didn't hear. The flame in the man's heart was instantly pulled up. When have we ever suffered from this kind of anger? Immediately chased after him, pulling Lin Tian's arm. What are you running for? I haven't even finished my sentence. Who told you to go away? Brother, don't be so grumpy. Asking you to borrow a fire is just a matter of borrowing. Borrow it. If not, then pull back. Is Lao Tzu talking about borrowing fire now? Laozi is talking about your attitude. How do you talk? This man is not a good person either. They are all troublemakers. That's how I talk. What? UING. What are you doing? You're going to make a move, aren't you? Let me tell you, I've learned sparring. Lin Tian pretended to be a goon. Sansho? I'm going to see if you've learned sparring today. Ouch, my hair. Before the man could finish his words, Lin Tian's hand was like a cat's claw, slashing down on the man's face, his other hand incidentally pulling on his hair before flinging it to the side. Nice guy. A small handful of hair was pulled off by Lin Tian. After taking advantage, Lin Tian pulled his legs out without saying a word and ran away, disappearing in the twinkling of an eye. The man painfully climbed up from the ground, looking at the direction Lin Tian disappeared. He could only furiously gnash his teeth and stomp his feet. Asterisk. Don't let me meet you again. See if I don't rip your head off. Now at this time, Lin Tian had long since disappeared. Even if he was angry, he could only eat a dumb loss. He also didn't expect Lin Tian to be so unmartial. Nima, it's almost like a scoundrel. The words were not even finished before he made a direct move, using this kind of underhanded tactics. Catching faces? Hair pulling? The man pulled out his cell phone and looked at the right side of his face, for long catch marks visible. Really unlucky. The man could only recognize his own bad luck at this time, muttered a sentence and then directly turned to leave. Zhongbo and Li Huabiao, who were watching this scene from afar, were dumbfounded. What's the situation? If you ask me, who am I asking? The two of them looked at me and I looked at you. Neither of them could figure out what Lin Tian was going to do. But it was hard to keep an eye on the target person, and now that they were about to leave, the two of them reacted very quickly, turning around and trying to follow. The person had just stood up when Li Huabiao's phone rang. It was from Lin Tian. "Where have you been?" Li Huabiao asked slightly eagerly. "It didn't go anywhere, I was right next to it. You guys sit there and don't move. What, still have to continue to wait here? How much longer do we have to wait?" Li Huabiao somewhat hesitantly looked at the suspect who was gradually moving away, secretly anxious in his heart. "Let's wait here? No way, people. It's all about to go. It's so hard to find the target person, we mustn't let him go." Zhong Bo was a very serious person. Naturally he was not willing to let go of any opportunity. Lifting his footsteps, he wanted to chase after him. "Captain Li, stop him, listen to me." "How can I stop it?" Li Huabiao looked at Zhong Bo, who had already started to act. His face was full of difficulties. He understood Zhong Bo's character. When that stubbornness came up, 9 oxen could not be pulled. "If you can't, just hold him on the ground, and listen to me if you want to solve the case, or this case won't be solved." Li Huabiao naturally knew Lin Tian's ability. At this time he could only clench his teeth, then walked up quickly and pulled Zhong Bo. "Old Zhong, listen to me first, don't be in a hurry. It's that time of the day and you're asking me not to be in a hurry. Old Li, let go, I'm on a mission." "Aya, I don't care so much, let's go back and continue waiting. Lin Tian will give you an explanation when he comes back." Where are all the words? A rare opportunity can't be missed like this. Let go. Watching the suspect's figure gradually become blurred, Zhong Bo became more anxious and struggled to chase. Li Huabiao can't care so much now, simply a tackle, directly to Zhong Bo. "What are you doing? Old Li, let go of me. I'm telling you this isn't over. You really are." Although Zhong Bo struggled fiercely, it was to no avail, and now at this time he could only do nothing. It was only after the man's figure had completely disappeared that Li Huabiao let go of his hand. Chapter 12, Don't Chase, Catch a Big Fish on a Long Line. "Old Li, do you know what you're doing? You're sabotaging our operation." After regaining his action, Zhong Bo was furious and was outputting a burst of output at Li Huabiao. "Don't be in a hurry, we have to trust Lin Tian, he definitely has a solution. There is a way what can be done, now the people have run away." "Wait, you say Lin Tian, will he go to follow?" "Thinking too much, I'm not following." As soon as the words fell, Lin Tian appeared behind him with a smile on his face. You're back here? Where is that suspect?" After Zhong Bo saw Lin Tian appear, that anger came back. Gone? Oops. Really don't know what you two are going to do. It's not easy to have a little hope, a little clue. This is letting go?" Zhong Bo was exasperated to ferry steps back and forth. "Officer Zhong, don't be in such a hurry, he's just one of these criminal gangs. Even if we catch him, it's useless. Like this kind of criminal gangs are all left with a backhand. Won't we spook the snakes by doing this? Wouldn't it be better to put in a long line to catch a big fish?" Lin Tian said nonchalantly. "Putting a long line to catch a big fish? It doesn't matter if you don't say this. As soon as you say it, Zhong Bo gets even angrier. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not stupid enough to take him back on the spot anymore. I'd like to put a long line in, but that would require bait at least. You just let him go and turn around and find him?" Zhong Bo was really angry, splitting his head and complaining. Lin Tian looked at Zhong Bo's exasperated appearance and suddenly felt amused. "No, why did I forget to place the bait? Careless, what can I do?" Zhong Bo's breath almost did not even up, so angry that he covered his chest, a look of lovelessness. "Forget it, this person was originally found by you, now run away, let's think of another way. Hey, next time don't be so impulsive, although I admit that your fortune-telling does have some skills, but on the matter of handling cases, we have years of experience." "I don't think so, even if you don't have experience you can still get things done." Lin Tian didn't intend to tease him anymore and directly waved his hand to interrupt. "Captain Li, how about a favor? What do I need to do?" Li Huabiao now had absolute trust in Lin Tian. The last time the strange door and transported armor had convinced him, and then this time with the questioning rice recruitment, where would Li Huabiao dare to question it? "You prepare an incense burner for me, then bring a few sticks of incense, red string, and a cup of water, and remember to have more ash inside the burner, and also get a tray, and paper, and a pen." "No problem, I'm on it." Without saying a word, Li Huabiao turned around and went to prepare. Fortunately, there are stores selling yuanbao candles in this neighborhood. Getting these things is very simple. "What are you going to do?" Bellwether was puzzled. "I was teasing you just now. Put in a long line to catch a big fish. I've already laid the bait. Now I'm just waiting for the big fish to take the bait." "You put a tracker on him?" Zhong Bo blushed. "That's not true. So how do you find him?" "Today, I'll show you my other Dao technique, the Chimen Dun Jia tracking technique, which is much better than even a tracker." Lin Tian spoke confidently. "That magical?" Although Zhong Bo had heard that Lin Tian was a very capable Taoist priest, after all, it was just a rumor, and the vast majority of people had a half-hearted attitude towards things they hadn't seen with their own eyes. Lin Tian smiled and didn't say anything. Soon Li Huabiao came back. He was holding a tray. On top of the tray was an incense burner, which was full of incense ash. After Lin Tian took the tray, he directly poured the ash from the incense burner onto the tray and then spread it out, in addition to lighting the incense. Captain Li, please serve it. Lin Tian handed the tray to Li Huabiao, in addition to taking out the red rope he had prepared earlier and tying it to Li Huabiao's index finger. After doing this, Lin Tian scraped out those bloody skins from the cracks of his nails and placed them on Li Huabiao's index finger, and before Li Huabiao had time to react, Lin Tian stuck this incense directly into Li Huabiao's finger. Ouch! Li Huabiao took some pain. Don't move. Lin Tian's face was serious, making Li Huabiao not dare to speak. Immediately after, Lin Tian tore off a small piece of the prepared paper and took a pen and quickly slid it on it. Soon a tracking talisman was completed. Lin Tian hurriedly folded the drawn talisman, then his hand slashed at the edge of the talisman, and the talisman unexpectedly just took on air. Wow! How do you do? Shut up and don't talk. Lin Tian seriously interrupted Zhong Bo. The talisman that had already been lit, Lin Tian directly put it into the glass of water. Open your mouth. Lin Tian looked at Li Huabiao. Li Huabiao didn't dare to question it, his mouth slightly opened wide, but at this time Lin Tian directly covered the water cup over. Li Huabiao subconsciously wanted to struggle, his mouth also could not help but inhale. The white smoke in the cup was instantly inhaled by him. Li Huabiao only felt a burst of heaven and earth, his eyes also became confused. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Tian hurriedly stuffed another unlit cigarette into Li Huabiao's mouth, maintaining a holding motion. Lin Tian pulled Li Huabiao's arm with one hand and swept his other hand against his feet. Li Huabiao directly fell to his knees. However, at this time, Li Huabiao's eyes suddenly closed, the incense in his mouth pointed to the tray. This moment Li Huabiao is as if asleep, kneeling on the ground, holding the tray in his hand, holding an incense in his mouth. The weird thing was that the incense in Li Huabiao's mouth was slowly moving, starting to leave traces in this pile of incense ash, like a child learning to write, slowly dragging it. Lin Tian put the incense burner on the side, lit two of the incense, and then took the prepared paper and pen over, and wrote out the location of the southeast, northwest, and north, and then wrote, Zhejiang Yingdao in other various directions. This is also a method of finding people in Qimen Dunjia, but he belongs to the tracking method. As long as there is the flesh and blood of the target person, you can find his location through the tracking method, after going through the heavenly stem and earthly branches in Qimen Dunjia, so as to determine the curve of the target person and where he is located and the distance. This can be a great test of the caster's ability and judgment. He had to do more than just observe the route, he had to determine the bearing, and as for the distance, that was to be judged entirely by the piece of incense inserted on the sensor. It simply can't be done without a certain amount of competence. But this was child's play to Lin Tian. Watching that incense on the tray drew a zigzag shape, Lin Tian also began the calculation on the white paper, first of all to determine the orientation. This is very important. There are a lot of Taoist priests cannot grasp the reason is because of the orientation got it wrong. Chapter 13, you really know how to play. You scratched your face. So Lin Tian now needed to do some calculations on paper to see which direction the target person went towards. Also keep an eye on the ash that falls from the incense on the burner. You have to see how far away it is. Usually the distance drawn compared to the ash that burns off gives you a total. When the calculation is done, the incense ash must be flicked off, otherwise it is impossible to calculate the next distance. This one took all of 10 minutes. When Li Huabiao's movement stopped, that meant that the target had reached the destination point. After Lin Tian had calculated the last distance, he had basically determined the other party's position as well. After doing this, Lin Tian directly closed the paper. The fish has taken the bait. What? You figured out where he went? Zhong Bo asked hurriedly. Well, now you can call for people. Let's go over and directly end them all in one pot. But don't move too much. I'm afraid they'll jump over the wall in a hurry. Lin Tian said indifferently. A caller? Are you so sure? If you believe me, then call for recognition. Now is the best chance. Just now if you follow up, there is no chance that you will be exposed. Like this kind of gang, their vigilance is very strong. So this kind of tracking method that I use is the most suitable. Good. I'll trust you then. Just wait, I'll call someone here. Zhong Bo didn't have any other way now. He could only choose to believe Lin Tian. After all, his reputation was here. Wait, so what does old Li do now? Only now did Zhong Bo realize that Li Huabiao was still maintaining the action of kneeling down with a cigarette in his mouth. Lin Tian glanced at Li Huabiao. As long as you pull out the incense from his mouth and remove the qi, you'll be fine. Leaving behind this sentence, Lin Tian directly walked over to the parking place. Hey. Zhong Bo had no choice at this time but to reach out and pull out that incense from Li Huabiao's mouth. Put. That one qi instantly gave out. Wow. It stinks. Zhong Bo immediately covered his nose, his face full of disgust, and took a few steps back. The smell was too uptight. The moment he pulled out the incense, Li Huabiao woke up violently. The confusion in his eyes gradually disappeared, but he was likewise choked by the smell of the top. Wow, what is this smell? What happened? Wow. What's with this guy? Why does this smell so uptight? Oh my god, I almost didn't pass by here without getting smoked. What's going on? It's like he doesn't know anything. Some of the people passing by just happened to be caught by the smell, and they all covered their noses and backed away with a disgusted look on their faces. What are you looking at? You haven't seen people worshipping the gods. Although Li Huabiao didn't understand what had just happened, but now that he was carrying a tray full of incense ash, he naturally knew that everyone was talking about him. What else is there to say? Hurry up and go. Zhang Bo only felt his old face reddening. He couldn't care less and pulled Li Huabiao and ran towards the parking lot. After getting into the car, Zhang Bo was relieved that Lin Tian was already waiting in the back seat early on. Let's go over and see the situation first. Lin Tian directly started guiding from the back. Which way to go? Soon the car came to a, more inclined to the suburbs of the region, where the flow of people relative to the downtown area, naturally, is much less, but this is not backward, relatively speaking, quite clean and tidy, not so crowded as the downtown area, giving people a very relaxed feeling. Lin Tian asked Zhang Bo to park the car on the side of the road, then turned off the engine and got out to smoke. The result shown in the tracking technique was the building in front of him. This is a rental building, can be short-term rental, can also be long-term rental, although in favor of the suburbs, but relative to the city center that high prices, the cost of this place is very grounded, so come over to travel there are a lot of people basically will choose to short-term rental here. This has led to this area here being almost entirely short-term rentals. It's in this building, the entire third floor almost entirely. The entire third floor? It's not that exaggerated. Zhang Bo was surprised. Short-term rentals like this one can house dozens of people on one floor. How else can you describe it as a gang? Hurry up and call someone. Lin Tian urged. There's no rush, let's find an excuse to go up and poke around first. Zhang Bo surprisingly vetoed it, and he insisted on going up to poke around and find out what was going on. After all, this is not a small matter. First of all, mobilized so big police force, if you swing the oolong, then not only is not good to account for so simple, it is likely to hit the grass to scare the snake, then what to catch the gang can be even less easy. Zhang Bo, this is also to the big picture. You don't believe me? It's not a matter of believing it or not, I think it's better to find out about it first. Either you don't do it, if you do it, you have to do something that's 9 out of 10, old Li Yu and Lin Tian wait for me here, I'll go up to have a look. Zhang Bo left this sentence, and did not wait for Lin Tian to agree, and went straight towards the top. Hey, how is he always like this? That stubbornness comes up really no one can pull. Li Huabiao shook his head with a face full of helplessness. Short-term rental on the third floor. There were quite a few people gathered in this living room chatting away. Tiger, what's the matter with you, kid? Was it that intense last night? Look at how your face has been scratched. One of the pugilists snickered. Ha, you kid. Must have done something bad again. Tell us how you play and teach us a couple of tricks along the way. Still, Tiger, you know how to play. Ha ha. Lulu faced the ridicule of the crowd, that old face instantly red. You guys just don't laugh at me here. I'm not where any woman scratching. I was drunk last night, slept in the bar all night, nothing to do, played lonely. No, then what's with that face? Don't you tell me a man scratched it. No brother, really by you to say right, indeed is a man scratch. I do not know today is bad luck, from the bar out to meet a psychopath to borrow fire to me. I do not lend him, but also in that chirping, and then I would like to give him a lesson, did not expect him to out then I am even more ruthless, directly to my face to scratch like a small teddy like. If that kid hadn't run so fast, I would have skinned him. After Nyo knew the ins and outs of the matter, he immediately laughed out loud, not surprising, there are all kinds of extreme goods in this world, but ahua, it's good that you didn't cause any trouble, otherwise this matter will not be easy to deal with. Recently, East China Sea has set up a special task force, which is running towards us. Chapter 14 Exposure, Consequences of Impulsiveness. Don't worry, brother Nyo, I've been very cautious all this way, absolutely no one is following me. Lu Hu said with incomparable certainty. Alright, let's not talk about this, the recent winds are a bit tight, so let's not make a move yet. Wait a few more days, we'll make a move after that energy of theirs has passed. I'm afraid that's not good, the buyers are rushing now, there are several who want the waist and several who want the heart, and that's not even counting those out-of-town buyers. The other pugilist was worried. Nyo brother face unhappy, urged to hurry so what, do our business, can rush to come, now the wind is so tight, we cannot just do it, come here we cannot return empty-handed, East China Sea is a good place, here is a good source of goods. It's okay, let's plan it out and do it in 3 days, you'll all be more honest in these days. Yes, Ox. What are you doing hiding here? Just as the men were talking about these things, the landlord's voice came from outside, and though it wasn't very loud, it was noticed by the minions who kept an eye on the door. The faces of Nyo and the others changed instantly, and the rest of them stood up. Zhang Bo at the stairway entrance secretly screamed in his heart. Nima, it's over. When doesn't the landlord show up, but at this time of the day, and with his ing voice talking so loud? It's fine, I'm just feeling a little sick in my stomach and want to find a restroom. Zhang Bo said perfunctorily. Stomach upset, there's a toilet over there, come on, I'll take you there. The landlord beckoned. Alright, then I'll trouble you. Zhang Bo was now basically certain of the fact that the gang was in here, and he was now about to leave to call someone. Click. Brother, don't be in a hurry to leave first. If you want to go to the toilet we also have it here, come on. The door of the room suddenly opened, and a burly man walked out from inside, his eyes cold as he looked at Zhang Bo. No need to trouble you guys, I'll just go upstairs and fix it. Zhang Bo forced a sly defense. The pugilist sneered, "Come in." Between the words, two other burly men came out from inside. They came to Zhang Bo's side on the left and right, their eyes revealing a sharp icy coldness. Zhang Bo's heart was suddenly cold, and he couldn't help but feel remorse. Now he's riding a tiger. These two pugnacious men are not good to deal with the main, not to mention that there are many people in there. Even if he can no longer fight, but also cannot be messed up, he could turn around and run, but this would be a complete alarm. These gangs are very quick to react, but there is any movement will be immediately withdrawn. If we let them get away this time, then we really won't have a chance. Zhang Bo couldn't make up his mind for a moment. Yeah, they have a restroom in there too, so go fix that. The landlord also saw that the atmosphere was a bit off, and dropped this sentence and turned around. Why are you still standing here, brother? Hurry up and go in. A burly man clenched his fists tightly, revealing explosive muscles. If they went in, it would be a bad thing. Not only were there a lot of them, chances are they were carrying weapons. Zhang Bo also knows that he must not be able to get out, this time cannot care so much, while the two big men are not yet defended, pretending to want to walk in. In fact, he secretly made preparations. When these two pugilists followed the pace, Zhang Bo quickly a heavy blow smashed in the man's neck. Zhang Bo itself is also out of the police academy, the strength is naturally not weak, and this place itself is the aisle. This style of heavy blows directly make this pugilist brain shells or hit on the wall. The pugilist directly had a heavenly spin, and then lost his ability to fight. Another pugilistic man's reaction, although very fast, but Zhang Bo has long been ready, quickly a downward, and pushed a sweep, pugilistic man directly swept to the ground. Zhang Bo took the opportunity to smash a heavy blow on his neck, and the pugilist fainted. There was a lot of commotion here, and it instantly attracted others. There was the sound of impatient footsteps from inside. Just as Zhang Bo was about to wrestle with him, Lin Tian and Li Huabiao's happened to appear. You guys came just in time, this is indeed their den, we can't care so much now, we'll arrest as many as we can. When it came down to it, Zhang Bo could only make a trade-off. He took out the baton he had hidden inside his clothes and was ready to fight. Li Huabiao didn't say much and directly took out his baton. Only Lin Tian came to the side of these two pugilists, only to see that he quickly took out two improvised talismans from his pocket, and stuffed these two talismans into the mouths of these two pugilists respectively, before hitting the foreheads of these two pugilists with his paper, drawing a strange shape. Lin Tian's nails were extremely sharp, but a blood trail would spill out from wherever his nails scratched. After doing this move, two hands respectively grabbed at the joint position at the shoulders of these two pugilists, and then gouged with force. A clicking sound could be clearly heard. But what was strange was that these two pugnacious men stood up violently, with the talisman in their mouths, and although they opened their eyes, they couldn't see a trace of glamour in their eyes. It gives the impression of being a puppet. Go on, them over. Lin Tian acted as if he was giving orders. These two pugilists actually moved, and the trail, straight towards the group of suspects running frantically. Holy, what's going on here? Zhang Bo's eyes snapped open. Lin Tian, you know these two people, how come they listen to your orders? Li Huabiao couldn't help but exclaim in shock. It's a technique to drive out corpses. Catching a corpse? The two men spoke in unison. Of course, techniques like this to drive out corpses don't have to be used on corpses, it's also possible to use them on the bodies of living people, but any fainting or unconscious characters can be controlled. What are you guys still waiting for? Why don't you hurry up and do it? Lin Tian reminded. After all, there was more than just one exit in this building, and now that these people had been alerted, they would definitely choose to escape at the first opportunity. Lin Tian had already notified the bureau when he came up, and the nearby police officers were already heading this way at full speed. They just needed to hold out for a while until someone came to back them up and they'd win. These two pugnacious men fierce batch, they are as if not afraid of pain, facing the attack of these accomplices, feel no pain, only know a single attack, coupled with this brawny body, it looks like a great visual impact. These traffickers one after another was put down. They're both crazy, aren't they? Traitors, those two damn traitors. Nima. Why do they seem like they're possessed? Their fists don't even know the pain when they hit them. Nima. Lousy just copied a stool to hit over, this stool are directly given broken, they did not say a word? Chapter 15, Master Lin, do you lack a disciple? Asterisk 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 asterisk. Are they even human now? Why do I feel like a zombie? Hit them without even screaming in pain. Usually when I see them fighting, they don't have this kind of life-threatening energy. What kind of evil is this? These traffickers were bluffed by these two brawny men. Because the two of them are really too fierce, as the saying goes, barefoot is not afraid of wearing shoes, but barefoot is afraid of fighting for their lives. Now these two pugilists are completely at desperate strength, and no matter how others are attacking them, no matter what kind of means, they are desperately charging forward, no matter how the fists and sticks hit, they are just thunderous. One by one these men were now lying down. No, as the leader of this gang, had realized how bad the situation was, no matter what, hurry up and withdraw, we've been discovered by the cops. Retreat in a hurry. Nyo's heart was beating now, he knew that this den had been targeted, he had to retreat quickly or everyone would be doomed. However, they all seemed to have somewhat underestimated Lin Tian's abilities. As the saying goes, to catch a thief is to catch a king. Nyo was the leader of the traffickers, and the two brawny men were targeting him. Now these two pugilists were like crazy, lunging decisively towards Nyo. It didn't matter what others did to stop it was like a brute of a bull anyway. Reckless. Nyo is also a ruthless man. Looking at the two pugilists lunging towards him, he turned around and picked up a sharp knife, stabbing it towards one of the pugilists. The strikes are ruthless and straight to the point. This stab would definitely come through if it hit. The pugilistic man dodged, and the knife did not strike his heart, but rather pierced the explosive muscles of his arm. The pugilist acted as if his body wasn't his, completely ignoring it, and taking advantage of this vacancy. The other pugilist had already pressed Nyo to the ground before slamming a blow into the back of his neck. Bull grunted and passed right out. Downstairs at this time of day even more urgent sirens sounded. The appearance of the sirens made these people even more panicked, and did not care about the boss or not, pulling their legs and running. In their line of work, if they are caught, this life is basically over. But by such a delay just now, they have long missed the best time to escape. Now all the exits have been blocked to death. The nearby police force has all been drawn off over. This group of people basically has been winged difficult to fly. Half an hour later, the scene is completely under control. One by one, the traffickers were escorted out from inside with handcuffs, and among them were the two pugilists, especially the pugilist who had just been stabbed in the arm and was now being brought out with a face full of pain. Why do I feel sore all over? I was just hit just now. It's not as if I would be like this. One of the pugilists, while walking, wondered. That's fine for you. Not only do I feel sore all over, but I don't know which one of the murderers stabbed me in the arm while I was passed out. Cow. Hearing this, the traffickers following behind couldn't help but laugh. Nima. How brave they were just now. They don't even know themselves, and now they're saying who stabbed him. Sore all over? When you were fighting just now, where was that look of desperation? Now you know how to say it hurts? Ha ha. Good, that's really great. Lin Tian, all the credit for this time is yours. The smile on Zhongbo's face couldn't be hidden at all. Credit or no credit, this is all secondary. I don't care, mainly, I just like this work. Work makes me happy. Lin Tian laughed. For these credits or not, he really didn't care. What he cared about was completing the system tasks. Now all he had to do was to try to complete this month's task index. How can that be? If it's your credit, then it's your credit. Zhongbo was a very stubborn person, and he was guilty inside himself. Whether it was the clues or finding these traffickers, the whole time was taken care of by Lin Tian alone. He could almost say he didn't make any effort, and later on he almost did something bad. If it wasn't for Lin Tian's timely intervention, it was unlikely that a large portion of these people would have already run away. Once they startled the snakes, it wouldn't be easy to catch them again then. Now is the best possible outcome. All in one net. God, you're just too godly. I, Zhongbo, have never obeyed anyone in my entire life, and you're the first person I've ever felt admiration for. Hey, it's not as godly as you say, this is just more accurate math on my part. How did you just do that one? Those two suspects were clearly unconscious, but they temporarily mutinied and didn't even know what was going on by the end. Didn't I say it? This is a kind of secret method, somewhat similar to the corpse catching art. This kind of thing I can't explain to you. Anyway, you know that this is a kind of Taoist art on it. Zhang Bo and Li Huabiao applauded at once. They had seen the whole process. At that time the two big men were so brave, they had seen it with their own eyes. Seeing is believing. Now the admiration in their hearts for Lin Tian had long been like a torrent of water flowing in an endless stream. Lin Tian. Should be Master Lin. I don't know if you still lack disciples in your hands? Li Huabiao after this time, has been completely convinced by Lin Tian. This Taoist method of solving crimes is really too interesting. If he can learn a trick, this life will not worry. Ahem, Master Lin in fact, if you lack a disciple I can also, I'm very sincere, just do not know if I have this wisdom root. Zhang Bo saw the situation, immediately came up, to say before this, he certainly will not believe in these what the so-called fortune-telling divination, much less believe in those so-called Taoism. But after this one, it had completely turned his perception upside down. This divination and fortune-telling is just awesome. In the past, so many people said that those Jianghu Taoist priests are all crooks. What Taoism are some Jianghu maneuvers, simply to run to cheat money. Anyone who dares to say that now, Zhang Bo will be the first to get mad at him. Not all Taoist priests are charlatans, those who are merely poor practitioners of the Tao. The Lin Tian in front of him was a complete and utter supermaster. If he could worship under Lin Tian and learn the Tao of it, wouldn't it be easier to solve the case then? But if you can learn a trick or two, you won't have to worry for the rest of your life. Nima. Previously heard others say that the profession of Taoist priests is very lucrative. He still does not believe. Now he is considered to believe, like Lin Tian, this kind of miraculous Taoist priests, who do not want to find him to calculate a fortune. If Lin Tian to go to those rich people divination and fortune telling, then the money does not come straight from the clamor. Chapter 16, Why Become a Cop? Because I like to help people, of course. It seems like those internet stories about Taoist priests making millions of dollars a year are really not rumors. Ha, you two just stop joking around. We're not joking, we're serious. We really want to worship under you, Master Lin. I wonder if we have any wisdom roots? The two spoke in unison, indescribably tacit. This made Lin Tian laugh. You guys are mistaken. Being a Taoist priest doesn't require any wisdom root. This thing doesn't exist. It mainly depends on the sweat and innate talent that you put in later in life, but I don't have any intention of taking on a disciple for now. For the time being? Understand, Master Lin. Oh no, Master, in the future, if you need any help, just look for me. I will definitely help if I can. Li Huabiao can become this captain. His brain is not poor. Hearing the word temporary immediately came to the spirit. There's me. I can help too, Master, not to mention, as long as there's a place where I can be used, even if it's to go through fire, I'll do whatever I can. Zhongbo now also wanted to learn a few tricks from him. When the time came to solve the case, it wouldn't have to be so laborious. Lin Tian laughed. Let's talk about this kind of thing later. I don't have any plans to do this for now, but if you need my help with any cases in the future, you can feel free to look for me. Other than that, Lin Tian was still very attached to the matter of handling the case. A case of this magnitude, taking down an entire human criminal enterprise, that must have been the talk of the town. Zhongbo, as the main person in charge of this case, naturally have to come forward to say something. When facing the reporter's interview, he has no qualms about opening his mouth. Cough. This time to be able to put this crime gang in a net, thanks to Master Lin, his fortune-telling and divination art is really too powerful. All the clues were all obtained from his hands. They were all calculated by him personally. Count? The reporters in the room were confused. Yes, it is counting. I grew up so big. Today is also considered to be a long knowledge. I now know what is called Shimen Dunjia, what is called divination and fortune-telling. Master Lin is so brilliant. With him there is no case that cannot be solved. Zhongbo patted his chest and said with a proud face. And this time Zhongbo even raised his head and chest to the camera. I'm here today to warn those outlaws, don't take any chances. No matter how well planned you are, we will definitely bring you to justice. This kind of words Zhongbo had naturally said to the camera before, but that was just going through the motions. Today Zhongbo said this but the bottom of the barrel, completely without any intention of going through the motions, like warning those who have bad intentions to keep them in peace. The story was quickly broadcast. The entire city of East Ocean blew up. Is this Master Lin so powerful? He can even figure out where the thugs are? I've heard that it's indeed very miraculous. It seems to be able to calculate everything, and the last time I was on the bus, I found the thief with a pinch of my finger. Wow, that good? What do you think? I heard that the last case of that gambler's suicide was still solved by this Master Lin himself, and I heard that he used the questioning rice to invoke the soul at that time. That's what I heard. I have a friend who happens to know the guy's mom, and I heard that it was really her son who was recruited, and she made sure of it. Wow. Such a powerful Taoist priest, why did he go to become a police officer? With his kind of ability casually can make a lot of money. Who knows about that? It's hard to guess the thoughts of all these tall people. In any case, with this master here, then our law and order here is greatly guaranteed. Yeah, he's so goddamn smart, those bad guys really have to weigh in on what they want to do. For a moment, Lin Tian's reputation became very loud in the East Sea. The rumor spread, which led to a very large number of reporters coming to the door of the police station the next day. The current Jianglong Street police station was already famous, and the vast majority of people came here because of Lin Tian's reputation. In the face of this kind of magic Taoist police, they all have plenty of confidence. Anyway, lost something over to him, surely able to retrieve it, and any case can also be the first time to crack. Officer, I just bought a small electric donkey yesterday, in the twinkling of an eye, it was stolen. This is what I spent 2,000 fast to buy. This to the hand has not yet warmed up before being stolen. Officer, you can be sure to find for me. My new Apple cell phone was stolen 2 days ago. It cost me almost a whole $10,000. This is the latest version of the highest matching. Officer Lin can give me a decision. My problem is a little more serious. 2 days ago my wife ran away with someone else, and now you don't even know where she went. Can Officer Lin help me find her? Brother, you're going too far. Your wife ran away with someone and you came over to see Officer Lin? Lost something to come over to find Officer Lin. This is still reasonable. You lost this person? Lin Tian also expressed that he was very speechless. It didn't matter though, he just liked to help people, and more simple cases like this one were better. Alright, you guys just line up one by one, I'll solve the case for you. Lin Tian didn't care, as long as the ones who came over to him to report a case, he was next in line. Like this simple lost things, and do not need to make too much effort, just need to engage in a Chimen Dun Jia bureau, you can look for the lost things, at least you can know that he lost things in which direction, exactly which location. G stands for north and south, and C stands for your little electric donkey, which is not far from you. Far. Well, north and south direction, about 10 miles, there should be a relatively empty wasteland there. Captain Li can let the people set off, there may not be any harvest. Alright, Xiao Ming, bring someone over to take care of things. Li Huabiao was now standing behind Lin Tian, waiting for orders at any time, and he was obedient to Lin Tian's calculations. As for your Apple cell phone, now it has been transferred out of the other cities for sale, it's very troublesome to find it back, but the thief can be counted out. Northwest direction, 9 Middle School District, Building B, Room 506. What a shame about the damn thief. He must be arrested and brought to justice to make him pay what he deserves. The victim who came over to report the crime was filled with righteous indignation, and he also knew that the cell phone had been moved out of the other city, and it was hard enough to get it back. Now these thieves can be very smart. They got the phone, naturally will not be in the original city to sell, will only be brought to other cities to sell. There are special people will be trading, the phone cannot get back, then the thief must be brought to justice. Chapter 17, The Chief's Son, Missing. As for your wife's matter, I just did the math for you, it won't be a big deal, it won't be long before she comes back to you. Lin Tian showed his teeth and smiled, the corners of his mouth carried a sense of playfulness. Really? Then I really thank Master Lin. The man who came over to report the case was very happy. That's going to leave the sidewalk speechless. Brother, is your heart that big? Your wife runs off with someone else and then comes back to you, and you're still so happy? Don't you have any feelings at all? My God, how far have you lost your bottom line? These were all minor cases, but Lin Tian was still very serious about solving them all. Until the end of the day, the crowd crowded by the population was still large, and this line went all the way to another street corner. This also drew a sigh from Jiang Ming. To say that I've seen a lot of queuing to buy things, but to queue up to report a case and queue up for such a long time is the first time I've seen it. To be honest, this is also the first time I've seen it, but this is good, our bureau's reputation is considered to be out. Li Hua Biao laughed. Now that it was already time to go off work, Li Hua Biao naturally couldn't let Lin Tian get exhausted, and personally went out and sent these people away. After all, this whole day, Lin Tian had been constantly counting, just the garbage can in front of him had been changed several times, he had solved at least 20 to 30 cases this day. Nice guy! This crime solving. More to the point, in just about none of these small cases is it not allowed. First of all, the small electric donkey before, according to the address provided by Lin Tian, the police went over to take a look, and found that there was a large area of small electric donkeys parked there, at least hundreds of units. There were still a few people guarding the place, and these police officers went over, and directly arrested these people. This can be equivalent to pulling out the carrot to bring out the mud. Back to the small electric donkey can not only one, but hundreds of units. In addition to the gang of thieves is the net a number of police are now investigating. With such clues, I believe that we'll soon be able to the gang of thieves to the net to be eliminated. As for the thief who stole the cell phone, not to mention the fact that he was alone, but after catching him in the act, the things he explained were different. This is something that involves an industry. After all, these thieves stole the phone, it is impossible to stay with their own use, they will basically use the low price to sell to some people, which some people are specializing in receiving these unseen belongings. After catching the thief, he is more accountable for a lot of things, will be able to dig out a larger part. That's a good thing for them. The result of this made Li Huabiao very happy, but at the same time he was also very distressed for Lin Tian. Master, you should be very tired from this forgetting for a day, why don't I treat you to dinner? Tired is not tired, it's all just a small thing. I still say that work makes me happy. If it wasn't for the fact that it's off-duty time now I would still be able to continue. Lin Tian's mood now didn't know how pleasurable it was, now that the system's task progress bar had a large portion of it, and he had worked to this extent in one day, could he not be happy? Li Huabiao didn't know what to say for a moment. Master Lin, I would like to ask, you have such a great ability, why do you want to come here to be a police officer? If you want to make money, you can make it casually. Jiang Ming asked the sentence that he wanted to ask the most inside. Open up the pattern a little bit, the more ability you have, the more responsibility you have, it doesn't matter to me if it's money or not, what's important is that I'm happy and I like to help people. 2. For a moment they didn't know how to answer. Just as everyone was getting ready to leave work, there was the sound of hurried footsteps outside. Where's Li Huabiao? Where? An anxious and nervous voice came through the door. Hearing that voice, Li Huabiao knew who had returned. It's none other than Zhang Ling, the chief of this police station. Zhang, why have you come back? Li Huabiao hurriedly greeted him. Zhang Ling had been on a business trip for quite some time and was expected to be back only in a few months, but now all of a sudden he was in a hurry to come back, so there must be something important going on. I'm coming back for a while on a temporary matter, I'll go on a business trip after this is taken care of. Now is not the time to talk about this, hurry up and gather your people, go to all the stations in East China Sea to look for people. Zhang Ling's tone was extremely anxious. What happened? Li Huabiao knew that something big must have happened, otherwise Zhang Ling wouldn't have suddenly returned and been in such a hurry. I got a call from my wife, my son he's missing. What, your son is missing? Li Huabiao was shocked. Yes, it should be something that happened last night, that brat doesn't know what's going on. After a fight with my wife, he left home, and hasn't come back until now. The phone can't get through, how can I get in touch with him? The more Zhang Ling said, the more anxious he was, after all, he only had such a son. Zhang. As the captain, Li Huabiao naturally had to ask what was going on. There is no such possibility, I have already asked his classmates said that they had never seen him at all last night. This is what Zhang Ling is most worried about, to say to go to his classmate's house that's okay, but now there is no clue at all. His classmates said that they haven't seen him, last night to now, can't get in touch. As a parent, I can't help it. Urgent? This problem is indeed a bit serious, don't worry Zhang, we'll take action now. Li Huabiao also knew the urgency of the matter. Wait, I've heard that there's a very skillful Taoist priest coming to our office. Where is he? Should I let him tell my son's fortune? Although Zhang Ling was away on a business trip, he basically knew everything that happened here, especially since Lin Tian's reputation was so loud lately. Hello, Mr. Zhang. Lin Tian smiled and greeted Zhang Ling. You are. Zhang Ling looked puzzled. Institute Zhang, I almost forgot to introduce you, this is Master Lin Tian Lin. Li Hua Biao hurriedly introduced. You're Lin Tian? So young? Zhang Ling was taken aback and couldn't help but look Lin Tian up and down. Institute Zhang, just because I'm young doesn't mean I don't have skills, I'm good at all kinds of divination and fortune-telling. That's just right, please calculate for my son where he is now, will something happen to him? Is he fighting with us on purpose? Zhang Ling couldn't care so much now, he had to know his son's whereabouts in a hurry, otherwise he wouldn't feel at ease at work. Yes, give me your son's birth date. Chapter 18, still in the East China Sea, fraud gangs. Birth date? Do you need anything else? No need, just give me his birth date and 8 characters. Birth date and 8 characters belong to a person's fundamentals. Through Chimen Dun Jia's projections, not only can you learn his future destiny, you can also learn where he is now. With Lin Tian's skills, there was no need to spend so much more effort on something that could be solved with just a birth date. That's what makes Chimenia so good. Is he really that powerful? Zhang Ling's face was full of incredulity, his eyes were questioning. If he said that Lin Tian's age was a little older, it was not likely that Zhang Ling would believe it without any hesitation. After all, he had been so famous lately, but the Lin Tian in front of him was just too young. That early 20s age is really hard to convince. Of course, he's really great. Li Hua Biao replied without hesitation. Jiang Ming next to him also nodded his head undeniably, but anyone who had seen Lin Tian's strength would choose to believe it without hesitation because he was just too capable. Zhang Ling did not say much, directly reported his son's birth date in 8 characters, whether or not the ability to try to know, it does not need to say much. After getting the birth date of Zhang Ling's son, Lin Tian began the projections of the Chimen Dun Jia Bureau, and the time spent was not very long, just 2 or 3 minutes. The result is right here. The projection in Lin Tian's hand was handed to Zhang Ling, but when Zhang Ling took a look, he was filled with confusion. Can you too read it? Cannot read. Master Lin, or you directly say the results okay, we are really cannot read Li Hua Biao smiled bitterly, he would also like to study the study, but now the situation is critical, he cannot care so much, and like this strange door recluse bureau, is not so good to crack, inside the writing of those words he simply cannot read. Your son's name is Zhang Tianyi, he's 18 years old and in his senior year of high school, right? Right. Has he made some new friends lately? I'm not very clear about this, but I've heard my wife say that this brat has indeed been a bit secretive lately, and I don't know what he's up to, and he's not willing to talk about it when asked. Well, has he expressed any desire not to go to school lately? Ha! At Lin Tian's words, Zhang Ling's eyes widened violently. How did you know that? I didn't say anything just now. Zhang Ling was indeed surprised, because after he came back he was also the first to learn about the situation from his wife, and to be able to be the director he was naturally trained to ask about things he asked in great detail, and learned about his son's recent performance and some of the things he had said. His son did have the idea of not wanting to study recently, and had already said so several times, but all of them had been flatly rejected by Zhang Ling, and this was something that other than him and his wife knew about, no one else knew about it at all. That's what the chimera can figure out, whether it's cause or effect I can figure it out. So my son's disappearance has something to do with all this? Of course it's related, the Chimen Bureau shows that your son has recently made some new friends, and these so-called friends are the key point of the problem, and C in the Chimen Bureau represents danger, which means that your son's life will be in danger. What life-threatening? Don't you dare scare me. Hearing the words life-threatening, Zhang Ling's face gave way to white. I'm not bluffing, there's another HN in the Chimen Bureau, the HN represents fraud and deceit, which means the danger your son encountered this time has something to do with fraud. Fraud? Zhang Ling's face became even paler. The fraud you're talking about wouldn't be a telecommunication fraud, would it? Well, you're really right, your son has now joined this scam. No, not joined exactly, he's been tricked into it. Zhang Ling's mind swirled and his feet stumbled. Li Hua Biao and Jiang Ming rushed over to support them. Don't be in a hurry, Zhang Xiang, Master Lin is here and will definitely be able to sort things out. Yes, don't worry Zhang, with Master Lin around we'll definitely know where your son is right now and we'll be able to get him back. Jiang Ming also rushed to comfort. Zhang Ling only has such a son, has always been very spoiled, not even let him suffer a little bit, and now that he learned that he was tricked into the telecom fraud gang, he felt particularly heartbroken. This kind of telecommunication fraud gang is not a good person, but whoever is tricked into it, first of all, they have to bear a beating. They have checked the cases in this regard before, and they have also heard the expression of some victims. Those people are simply heartless, and those who are tricked into going in are treated directly as livestock, and it is only after they are honest that they are allowed to start the scam. When he thought of his son suffering from this inhuman treatment, Zhang Ling's heart was full of bad feelings. Master Lin, then tell me about my son where he is now? He's not going to be transferred outside the country, is he? Zhang Ling suddenly remembered something and hurriedly asked after him. If his son was still in East China Sea, everything would be fine, but once he was no longer there, there would really be no way back then. When people get outside the country, it's going to be hard to do when they get there. Lin Tian thought for a moment and said, you don't need to worry so much right now, your son is still in the East Sea, but it's hard to say after tomorrow, so we still have time now. Luckily this fraud gang is not very good at their business and is kinda unfamiliar with it, and it's staying in the East Coast for now. That's good, then can you figure out his bit of, where is it located? Zhang Ling looked at Lin Tian with anticipation as if he had caught a life-saving straw. It's premature if we're talking about now, and rushing to the rescue will only result in a botched attempt to not only potentially hurt your son, but possibly even others who have been tricked into going. Tell you what, start laying out now, barricade those stations and some of the necessary intersections, and we'll do it tomorrow at noon. It will have to wait until noon tomorrow, I'm afraid that's not good. Zhang Ling's eagerness to save his son had long since gone haywire. After all, no father could bear the thought of his son being tricked into that kind of inhumane gang. Everyone knows how inhuman these telecommunication fraud gangs really are, but anyone who has the chance to save them will not let go, and while they are still in the East China Sea, they will make a move as early as possible to kill them all in one fell swoop. Not now, really not, we have to wait until noon tomorrow, otherwise things will get extraordinarily big. The reason I'm saying this is that you should know better than I do, how inhuman these telecom fraudsters are, how ruthless their tactics are, and if they get them riled up, they'll do anything. Telecommunication fraud, by now, has long since ceased to be a novelty. But a few words like that put a lot of people off the scent. Chapter 19, do nothing, go home and sleep. But, Zhang Ling was impatient and stammered for words. Officer Zhang, I understand your feelings, let me put it to you this way, as long as you do as I say, by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, your son will definitely be able to return safely. So confident? Zhang Ling was a bit surprised. Of course, my trigrams have never been wrong, provided that you can hold down the restlessness in your heart. Lin Tian said confidently. What will happen if this is pressed? Zhang Ling asked. You can ask Officer Chung what the consequences will be, he should know better than I do. For this time the traffickers' gang fell into the net. Zhang Ling naturally also heard about it. He knew that Zhong Bo had already scared the snakes at that time. If not for Lin Tian's hand, it is not likely that those criminal gangs have already fled a large part of it, which can make Zhang Ling very hesitant. Will my son he be in danger if we spook him? It will, as I just said. Your son's life will be in danger if we spook him. Okay, I believe you and will do as you say. But can you tell me the exact situation of my son now? Zhang Ling was most concerned about whether his son had suffered. Lin Tian smiled. After entering a place like that, do you think it's possible not to suffer a bit? Bitterness? Yes, for this kind of fraud gang of telecommunication, the process of going in is more clear to you than to me, and the poisonous beating that can't be avoided, but I do think that it will help your son grow up to a certain extent. What does that say? Zhang Ling was puzzled. Zhang Shou, sometimes being too spoiled isn't always a good thing. It's not an empty saying that loving mothers spoil their children. You're just too spoiled for your son, you satisfy him with everything, you always give him the best, which isn't in fact the case. Your kind of overindulgence called overindulgence has led to your son's psyche to develop a resistance. He desperately wants to prove himself, and that's what led to this time, a slap in the face, and these scammers are precisely taking advantage of that. Lin Tian explained with a face full of helplessness. Zhang Ling was silent. In fact, what he usually did was basically exactly the same as what Lin Tian said. He was just too pampered with this son, afraid that he would suffer, completely treating him as a flower in the greenhouse like cultivation, and did not experience any storms. Well, there's no other way now, Master Lin, I trust you, what do you say to do? First of all, set up a defense at the East China Sea highway entrance, and remember to make sure that it's rigorously lined up. Now. Yeah, start doing that now, this kind of thing can't wait, and also, tell them to pay special attention to a few license plates. Give me the paper and pen, I'll write it down for you, and when the time comes, focus on lining up these cars, they have to be taken down no matter what. Saying that, Lin Tian directly brought paper and pen and wrote down a few license plates on it. This scene directly stunned Zhang Ling. You can even calculate the license plate photo? This is natural, what is called divination and fortune-telling. To be unpredictable, if you can't even calculate the license plate photo, what is divination and fortune-telling? Well, now that I'm off duty I won't say much, go back and have a good rest, and tomorrow give them all a potpourri. After saying that, Lin Tian turned around and walked straight away. Only the two were left with a confused look on their faces. So confident? Worthy of being Master Lin. Li Huabiao looked at the direction Lin Tian left with a face full of admiration. It's indeed quite wild, but why do I feel that he's so dependable? Zhang Ling only felt very solid in his heart, a feeling that was completely indescribable. Institute Zhang, I think you can completely rest assured about this, if others can't be relied on, Master Lin can definitely be relied on, he's so brilliant, there's nothing that he can't calculate. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure, it's guaranteed to be stable. Li Huabiao patted his chest and guaranteed. Zhang Ling hesitated slightly. How about this, you go and check the number plates of these cars and give me all the specific information. Great, I'm on it. Li Huabiao was very capable of doing his job, and before 20 minutes had passed, all the information had already been brought back. Officer Zhang, I've already investigated, almost all of these cars are some cars carrying passengers, they just specialize in long-distance runs. Zhang Ling took the information and looked at it, and asked in passing, so are all these drivers clean? All of these drivers are properly licensed, they all make a living by carrying passengers, and they're in the business of carrying passengers in charter buses. That's strange, why did Lin Tian ask us to focus on these cars? Zhang Ling said in disbelief. Is it hard to believe that these fraudsters are chartering a bus to leave Donghai? This shouldn't be possible, right? Zhang Ling felt that it was a bit impossible. After all, many of the people here had just been tricked into going over there. If there was a chance to escape, would they be able to miss it? A job like this chartered car was obviously not safe for them. They all had their own fixed means of carrying passengers. This is not very clear to me, but I think Master Lin's fortune-telling can't be wrong. Just trust him. Although Li Huabiao couldn't figure it out, he still chose to believe Lin Tian. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible, Captain Li, we are police officers, no matter what we do, we have to leave a thread. I naturally believe what Master Lin said, but we need to do something ourselves, so I'll tell you what, you have plainclothes men search for clues late at night to see if they can find any breakthroughs. Zhang Ling thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said. Eventually he couldn't help himself and decided he had to do something about it or he wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. He cared too much about his son. I'm afraid this isn't too good, right? Li Huabiao's face was filled with hesitation. After seeing Lin Tian's strength, he had no doubt about Lin Tian's ability, because the Lin Tian from earlier had instructed them not to make any actions tonight, just simply arrange for manpower to set up the barriers and that would be fine. The most important thing was that Lin Tian had even given out the location where the pass was set up. Zhang Ling was clearly not listening to Lin Tian with this approach. What's good about it? As long as you don't startle the snakes, I won't let you make it all over the city. I'm just asking you to go and poke around in some situations. Remember, the commotion has to be small, don't ever startle the snakes. Zhang Ling had already said so. Li Huabiao didn't dare to say anything else and could only do what Zhang Ling said. A big official is a big man. Moreover, Li Huabiao also understood Zhang Ling's current mood. He usually doted on his son to that extent. It was indeed unlikely to let him do nothing at such a time. Chapter 20, with a population as large as it is, there are always a few brainiacs. And at this time Li Huabiao wasn't confused, he still gave Lin Tian a call before he went out and prepared to make his move. When Lin Tian learned of this news, he immediately laughed out loud. Master Lin, what are you laughing at? Li Huabiao couldn't help but ask suspiciously as he listened to the laughter that sounded like a silver bell. Didn't laugh at anything, it was exactly what I thought it would be. Ha! It's exactly as you thought, you've already done the math? That's natural, as a father he dotes so much on his son. Do you think it's possible to let him sleep in peace at a time like this? So, what am I going to do now? Just do whatever he tells you to do, don't worry, it doesn't matter much. Lin Tian smiled and comforted. With Lin Tian's words, only then did Li Huabiao completely put his heart down. As long as Lin Tian nodded his head, anything would be fine. He was afraid that he would spoil things because of himself. The last time Zhongbo's matter was a big lesson. This one night was a night of restful sleep for many people, but for Li Huabiao and Zhang Ling, it was a sleepless night. One of them can't sleep and the other is working hard. It's not a good job. Li Huabiao now has to do is to secretly search for clues, both to search for clues but not to let the other side know. So do this kind of thing will have to be very careful. Now the person who is handling the case cannot have no informants. Li Huabiao also spent a lot of effort. Almost all the informants were dug out and asked once. Though he had done a thorough job, he could still smell the danger for some wary people. A certain compound in the Eastern Sea. This one compound was different from the ordinary ones. This place is something like a studio in general. There are a lot of people who work here. With so many new people coming in every day to apply for jobs, it's a serious studio in the eyes of outsiders. In fact it is not, and only those on the inside know that this is not a studio of any kind, it is a den of a fraud ring. In today's situation, telecommunication fraud has long been no longer a rare thing. Many people's vigilance has become stronger, but still cannot stop the existence of fraud gangs. And this lair is not really a lair, in the end, it's a temporary recruiting spot. To put it bluntly, they are here to take care of the sourcing. The so-called source of supply is to trick people over, then condition and brainwash them, and then send them outside the country after doing this, so the people in this den are responsible for finding people. Of course, they were also very good at choosing the place. Don't look at this compound as a bit shabby. In fact, it is very spacious inside. It doesn't matter if you live a lot of people. What's more is that there is also a hidden basement here. Those who were tricked to come over basically are locked up in the basement. Tuning up inside is basically unfelt outside, just what they need to fulfill their needs. Brother Zhang, we're really unlucky too. It looks like we'll have to ship out early this time. A dark-skinned man said viciously. Being called as Zhang's man, the age looks just more than 30, wearing a suit, wearing gold glasses, looking at the Sven Chu, but do not look at him now this look. In fact, he is the leader of this fraud gang, usually basically to the identity of the boss. He was basically the one who dealt with outsiders, and it was because of his svelte appearance that he didn't know how many people had gotten into trouble because of it. The man who spoke just now was called Old Black, specializing in poking around outside. But there are still some people who haven't finished their conditioning yet. At this time I think it would be risky. Zhang balked at the idea, with hesitation in his eyes. After all, his job was to do the initial brainwashing of these people first, and after they were sent over, the aftermath would be taken care of by a specialized person. Brother Zhang, right now the situation might be a bit off. We really need to hurry up and move, and we can't come back to this place, the East Sea, in the future. Is it that bad? Brother Zhang, you don't know. I just received news that just this evening there are cops secretly poking around, as if to say that their director's son has disappeared and is related to the fraud gang. This can't be us, can it? Zhang couldn't help but frown. If this was the case, things would be in trouble. Old Black innocently shrugged his shoulders. I don't think it's unrelated to us. How many of us do this in East China Sea? Didn't we just arrest a kid yesterday who said his old man was the director? It seems to be that kid. Who cares whose son he is, since we've already caught him? We definitely can't let him go. It doesn't matter, we can wait for a while. It's not too late to ship out after the wind dies down. Zhang was not panicked at all, because in their line of work, they often have to go through a lot of dangers. No matter whose son it is, it doesn't matter. As long as it's out of the realm, then it's too late to whip it. No, I'm afraid this won't work. A very powerful Taoist priest seems to have appeared in the East China Sea recently. It's said that he's very good at divination and fortune-telling. The previous big cases were all solved by him. He was even able to calculate where the culprits were. Recently Lin Tian's reputation was so loud, it was impossible for Old Black not to know about it. Zhang disdainfully laughed. I really do not believe that there will be such a strange person in the world. In the end, that is just a cop out of bluffing. People's stuff. What divination and fortune-telling? It's ridiculous. Zhang brother, this kind of thing would rather believe it. Cannot believe it. Dry our line of work as long as the miss wants. That can be completely finished. The East China Sea, this place we stayed here for a period of time. It is also time to change a place to develop. The Old Black suggested. That's true, we really should change our location. Since that's the case, let's ship out early tomorrow. Now you go and make contact. Zhang hesitated slightly before finally making his decision. People like them were basically organized and planned. They wouldn't stay in one place for a long time because it would draw attention to them, and every once in a while they would switch to another city, so that the constant cycle of switching would be less dangerous. In the end, this also captures the greed of the human heart. Nowadays the pressure of the society is so great, many people want to find a high-paying job, which gives them a huge breakthrough. There are so many people, there will always be so many brains are not smart. Okay, I'm on it. I'll have Dagger and the others have the driver bring the car around and we'll retreat overnight. Chapter 21, It's not right. We have to go. No, the winds are so tight right now, it would be too much of a commotion to do that. We have to be careful, we can't use our own car. Not using your own car? Old Black was puzzled. They would send people to a fixed time every so often. They had to have their own driver so that they could be more secure. But this time Zhang said he didn't need his own car, so whose car should be used? Now the police have begun to investigate. We made too much noise like this. We still need to be careful. This way, tomorrow our own car to carry passengers instead. In addition, you go to find a few passenger vehicles. It is best to look for that kind of van, so that it is not so conspicuous. But remember, you must have someone with you to avoid any problems. Also, have Xiaolong go and teach them well, and don't talk nonsense when we transfer tomorrow. You should know what to do. Understood. Xiaohei naturally knows what is going on here, and now there is a small part of these people who have just come, not thoroughly conditioned, and the initial brainwashing has not been completed, and in the car ride is also afraid that they will be talking nonsense, attracting the attention of others, and at such a time should be a little tough, so that they will not dare to speak tomorrow, and as for the specific how to do it, do not have to think also no. Brother Zhang is really brilliant, this can all be thought of by you. Old Black gave Brother Zhang a thumbs up and incidentally patted his ass. Ha, didn't you just say that those cops got a very powerful Taoist priest? Didn't you say that his divination and fortune-telling have never been wrong? I'd like to see if he has this ability. We're leaving tomorrow, and we're leaving in a big way. Can he calculate this Taoist? Zhang spoke with a smug face. Zhang is right, the Taoist which basically a scam, even if he is no longer powerful cannot calculate that we will invite other vans to go. Hi, this trick can be really high. The Old Black man was now coming to his senses. Zhang did this because he wanted to confuse the police officers. They don't use their own cars, they go to carry passengers instead. In case they are targeted by the police, at most, they will be charged with driving a black car and fined a little bit and then get rid of it. And they ask other drivers to come over to carry passengers, that have formal procedures, even if they meet the police are not afraid. After all, every car has someone to take those people, warning them not to talk nonsense. More importantly, a great part of this has been carried out the initial brainwashing. They are now eager to go to the head office to work to make a lot of money. As for the very small portion, there weren't many of them, and they were perfectly capable of holding them down. By 2 a.m. or so, Li Huabiao appeared in Zhang Ling's office to report on his work, and in fact there was nothing to report on, as they had only been investigating for just a few hours, and it would be strange if they could find out anything. Officer Zhang, those guys were all very cunning and didn't reveal anything. We weren't able to find out anything. Alas. Forget it, hard work, it's not early now, you go back to rest. Zhang Ling for this result, seems to have long been expected, but he does not do something, his heart always feels uncomfortable. After all, These scams are so discreet that it's not easy to find them. Although Zhang Ling and Li Huabiao couldn't sleep this one night, Lin Tian slept exceptionally soundly. After all, a big part of this month's mission was accomplished, and just thinking about it made me feel especially happy that people were happy. Early the next morning, Lin Tian clocked in to work early. Recently their bureau has been particularly busy, the same as also early in the morning people came to the door, waiting for Lin Tian to give them a case, but today's situation is indeed a little bit wrong. Now come over to the case of those masses are all sent away. The reason is also very simple. Today they have a major task. Li Huapao told them to wait until tomorrow if they wanted to report the case. So the bureau is a lot quieter now. This made Lin Tian a little helpless, and there was no way around it. He could only solve this case first. Originally Lin Tian thought that he had come early enough, but when he saw Li Huabiao and Zhang Ling he realized that the two of them were even earlier. Accurately speaking, the two of them did not go home at all last night, and squinted in the office for a while all night. After seeing Lin Tian's arrival, Zhang Ling was the first to react and hurriedly greeted him. Now that we're ready to go out at any time, what are we going to do next? Institute Zhang, why do you have such big dark circles under your eyes? You didn't get any sleep last night, did you? Zhang Ling let out a bitter smile. After such a big incident, how can I sleep? It's alright, your son will be back soon and will become obedient and a better person when he comes back. Lin Tian laughed. This is not a bad thing for you, Zhang, but a happy thing. This is equivalent to how can you see a rainbow without experiencing the storm? People who have experienced great things will become tough-minded, and by then, you, Zhang, will definitely be very satisfied with your son's change. Lin Tian, just don't comfort me. Despite what Zhang Ling said on her lips, she felt a little better in her heart. I'm really not comforting you, what I'm saying can be the truth. Lin Tian was full of seriousness. No matter what, as long as my son can come back safely, that's enough, I don't care about anything else. Zhang Ling gritted his teeth. Ha ha. Zhangshou, last night you should have. Didn't do anything, did you? Lin Tian pretended to know nothing. No, I didn't do anything. I was in the office reading the information last night. Zhang Ling smiled somewhat awkwardly, but the embarrassment in his eyes could not be hidden at all. The corner of Li Huabiao's mouth, who was standing next to him, also twitched slightly before he smiled and chimed in. I can prove this, there really isn't one. Well, no will do, in that case it's time to move. Draw out all the police forces in the vicinity, ambush on both sides of the highway exit, the license plate numbers I gave you yesterday for them to remember, but whenever they see them, find a way to stall them. Remember, it's to find a way to stall, so that they don't reveal themselves, or else they won't be able to get all of them in one net. Entrance to the Tokai Expressway. The daily traffic flow here is very high. After all, this is the largest highway from East China Sea to other cities, so the vast majority of cars are heading here. The highway entrance was a little crowded today, as someone was checking ahead. That drew a lot of complaints. There were enough cars already, and now we have to check them here, and there's no telling how long this traffic jam will last. Yeah, but that's not a surprise, it's checked here all the time. Let's just say it's not a good day. Hey, check again, this don't even know until when. A van driver with license plate number hike 2002 sighed somewhat helplessly. Chapter 22, Exposed, or Routine Inspection. Check, what happened up front? Old Black asked, sitting in the passenger side, full of doubt. What else can happen? In front of us is the biggest highway import and export in East China Sea, and there will be people checking there from time to time, so I guess we'll have to arrive a little later today again. The driver was full of helplessness. Old Black stroked his chin. What's there to check at this highway entrance? Isn't this adding to the chaos? The words are not so. After all, here is the import and export check. A little strict is also right. Save time to mix in somewhat people, and this East China Sea is not very peaceful. There are a lot of goods are required to check. I heard that the last time here to find out a car smuggling goods it. So that's it. How long before it's our turn? It's hard to say, it depends on how fast they check. Old Black nodded, then reported the situation here to Zhang. Now Zhang arrangement is very proper. They are not the same batch out, not a car followed by a car, but a car first to explore the road, every other time to send out a batch of people, so that you can minimize the risk, do not let others suspect. And they can be tipped off when the car leaving in front of them is safely gone. Now the report from Old Black is that the checks at the highway entrances are basically from trucks, buses and such. Lao Zhang saw the information, think not much problem, because he also knows that the East China Sea highway intersection of the police that is inevitable, almost always have to check, and now the situation is somewhat special, they check is also inevitable. Zhang sent a direct message back, telling them to keep moving and report back at the first sign of anything. In addition, the other cars began to continue their departure, almost every half hour a train, which was picked up continuously. That's how shrewd he is. Instead of hiring a car all at once, he calls one every half hour, which is equivalent to being completely unconnected. And these drivers were originally specialized in carrying passengers, so it's even more of a no-brainer. A lot of times cars carrying passengers aren't inspected much, at most they look for overloading. After all, like this kind of highway entrance, the daily traffic flow itself is a lot. It is impossible to toss for too long, much less a car carefully to check. If you really do, I guess the whole system will be paralyzed. Old Black was also patient at this time, and the car had to move forward little by little. After almost 10 minutes or so, it was finally their turn. As the captain of the Li Huabiao saw this car from a long way away, but Li Huabiao did not move until the car checked before coming over. What's wrong with this car of yours? Look at your lights and license plate. Can I say you are deliberately obscuring the number plate? The driver was startled when he heard it, and hurriedly got down from the car, and found that his license plate photo was indeed dirty, and because of the long running of the car, the headlights had long been stained with a lot of mud. Traffic police big brother, really sorry, we are running cars all day long here, and we don't have time to wash the car, don't worry, I'll wipe the license plate clean. The driver's forehead cold sweat swished out, quickly and smilingly agreed, and then wanted to take out paper towels from the car to wipe the license plate. But Li Huabiao was waving his hand, don't obstruct traffic here, move the car to the shoulder of the road. The driver was a little difficult. First of all, you need to queue up here, which is a very troublesome thing in itself, and once the car is moved to the side, then it will be a problem. If they check it carefully, they will surely have to fine. Doing their line of work, in fact, the car has a lot of are not up to standard. If a careful inventory of the problem will be able to see, when the fine is certainly not less. Traffic police big brother, I'm here in the guests, or you accommodate accommodation, I wipe the license plate clean on it, it's not much of a matter, you see I have an old man on the bottom of the small. Don't come to this, let you move the car to the side to deal with it, don't you see that there are so many cars behind you? Li Huabiao pretended to be impatient and interrupted. The driver was helpless at this point, muttering in his mind, didn't you read the calendar today? There was no choice but for the driver to move his car to the side shoulder at this point. What is this for? Old Black was instantly alert, so many cars are not looking for them, could it be that they are exposed? It seems that I didn't read the yellow calendar when I went out today, such an unlucky thing can also let me meet it, and I don't know if my running this trip is enough to pay the fine this time. The driver spoke bitterly while moving the car. What do you mean? It's the end of the month now, a large number of people are rushing for results, I'm right in the middle of the gun, I should have washed the car first last night, it's all my fault for being confused, I came back from a long run yesterday, there was a section of the road that was particularly bad, and I got so much dirt on the car that it even covered up the number plate. Drivers often run on the road, naturally know some of these things, like they're kind of car carrying passengers, the general time is not checked, but once checked, the problem can be a bunch of come. First of all, what lights license plate light, tire exhaust and so on the basic majority of the car is not qualified, once detected, that can be fined and deducted points. At those words, the corners of Old Black's mouth twitched, so what now? Should we switch to another car? No need to be like this, I'm also taking this business from you guys to fall into this kind of bad luck, and at this time you guys say you want to find another car owner. Do you think that's appropriate? What's inappropriate, now that your car is out of condition can run is an unknown. Old Black naturally didn't want to delay here. Can't run, that's not so bad, although our car has some minor problems, but it doesn't affect the safe driving, at most it's just a fine, running is still possible, just have to wait a little while. The driver hurriedly explained, to know that now he is already prepared for the fine and demerit points, if even this single business is lost, it would be a really big loss. The Old Black slightly hesitated, and finally nodded and agreed, not that he did not want to change, but now to the highway intersection here to find a car is originally very difficult, and there are cops staring at the side, but any foot is dangerous, this time more than one thing is better than one thing. Just after they parked the car on the shoulder, a traffic cop came by to check the exact condition of the car. You don't have enough brightness overall with this headlight, and you have this license plate light that doesn't come on front and back, do you know that's dangerous? Chapter 23 Wait 10 minutes, and we'll do it right away. What reassured the Old Black man was that these traffic police were really looking for problems with the car now, and didn't look much at the passengers. Old Black was relieved. As long as he didn't inventory the passengers, anything was fine. However, for the sake of caution, Old Black sent a message to Zhang, informing him of the current situation. Lin Tian, since the targets have appeared, why don't we just take control of them? Zhang Ling and Lin Tian had been ambushed on both sides of the highway, they had seen this scene with their own eyes and knew the exact situation now, but Zhang Ling was confused. According to the current situation, the best way is to control those suspects, as long as they are controlled, they can use them to get in touch with that fraud gang, and they can be lured into the bait step by step. This is their most commonly used tactic, but it is very effective. Lin Tian, on the other hand, shook his head, you can't do that. You think all the people in that fraudulent gang are little cuties, do you? They are organized and disciplined, they have a plan for everything and are very cautious, but if there is any breeze, they will know about it. That shouldn't be possible, should it? Why wouldn't they? Do you think they wouldn't keep an eye out? There are so many cars and so many people at the highway intersection right now, are you sure that there isn't anyone here who is their eyes and ears? Seems right, sorry, I wasn't thoughtful enough. Zhang Ling hurriedly opened his mouth to apologize. He had indeed been in too much of a hurry just now to consider this. It's okay, you can't go wrong if you listen to me. But if we deliberately trouble them like this, will we attract their attention, and will they be more vigilant then? Zhang Ling was a little worried. If we do this, they won't be vigilant instead. Lin Tian was decisive and looked like he was winning. Zhang had naturally received the message Old Black had sent him, and he had also received the situation at the scene transmitted by the others. Zhang was not worried at all after this. Mr. Zhang, this seems to be a bit of a bad situation. Why don't we just stay for now? Old Black has been detained by the cops now. A junior brother was filled with worry. Don't worry, it's fine, Old Black, this is just a temporary and unexpected situation. The cop didn't even notice our situation. He's looking for trouble with the driver now. I think it's better to be careful. We are now already very careful. Listen to my quasi-right, now is already the end of the month. A lot of people are rushing performance, but they all have indicators of the task. If this time they did not rush, the indicators on the contrary is very suspicious. We have to be careful. And now this situation, we will follow the form of the plan on the line. Brother Zhang is right. It's still your head that's good, Brother Zhang. Say no more, and to avoid a long night's sleep, hurry up and start acting according to the plan. The last bit of doubt in Zhang's mind had now dissipated, and at the moment he didn't make too much of a stop and began to find other carrier drivers and began to move the personnel around in large numbers. Now he had no shortage of people in his hands at all, dozens of them, half of whom they had tricked into coming here. Now that 7 or 8 vans called to fill up. The traffic congestion at the highway checkpoints was just as bad, almost in a state of semi-paralysis, passing very slowly, and the scene was a little chaotic. Master Lin, it's been so long now, can we make our move yet? Yeah, we're under a lot of pressure when the scene is all jammed up like this. The person in charge of this highway intersection is full of difficulties. He has received several calls, and now his heart is anxious and helpless, because this time the traffic jam has been jammed several kilometers away. There's no way around it. We're dealing with a big case that needs to achieve this kind of effect. Just bear with it for a while, it'll be over soon. Zhang Ling hurriedly stepped forward to explain. Geez, how long is this going to take? The person in charge of the highway intersection shook his head with a face full of helplessness. Lin Tian, who hadn't said anything, suddenly spoke. Wait for another 10 minutes and do it directly. 10 minutes? Lin Tian, are you sure? Zhang Ling was both excited and worried. Now all they have to do is to wipe out this fraud gang. Zhang Ling also knows that they will split into several cars and leave together. If one of them is missing, it will be a big trouble. Maybe his son is in that one car? Of course I'm sure. Just 10 minutes, all those licensed vehicles I gave you will all show up. When the time comes, just control them directly. These jobs I'm sure you're better at doing than me, Zhang. After saying that, Lin Tian turned around and left. Hey, where are you going? Zhang Ling hurriedly asked after him. I'm going back to work at the station. Back to work? Aren't we working now? Will something go wrong if you leave at this time? Zhang Ling pursued towards Lin Tian's back, but unfortunately Lin Tian didn't stop moving at all, and in the twinkling of an eye, he was nowhere to be seen. In the face of this situation, Zhang Ling didn't have much to do. After all, Lin Tian had already said that he would directly take action after 10 minutes, which meant that he could close the net. This was the first scene of rescuing his own son, and it was absolutely impossible for Zhang Ling to be absent. 10 minutes went by in the blink of an eye. Zhang Ling had already arranged it long ago, but a designated vehicle comes into view and is immediately notified. Zhang Ling's biggest concern is that there are stationary vehicles that are not in place, but all his worries proved to be all but superfluous. Just in the last few seconds of the 10 minutes, Zhang Ling received a report from his subordinates that all the vehicles had arrived. Good. That's really great. Notify all the people down there to take action immediately. Give me all the suspects under control in the shortest possible time, and don't give them time to react. Zhang Ling had already laid out all the sets long ago. As long as he waited for all the target vehicles to appear, he would immediately take control of the other party with a thunderous force. Zhang was now chatting leisurely, originally thought that when the traffic jam this period of time passed, it would be fine, but what he never dreamed of was that in the blink of an eye, the car door was opened, and then one by one, the armed police appeared in the field of vision, and before they had the time to react, they were directly pressed to the ground. This time the harvest is very big, to this a fraud gang all one net, almost one does not leave out. The whole 8 is many. In addition to this there are another 10 was cheated past the victim. Chapter 24 Master Lin's presence will keep the 4 directions safe. Among the 30 or so people, Zhang Ling's son, Zhang Tianli, was among them. The moment Zhang Ling saw his son, he couldn't help but be so excited that he burst into tears and wrapped his arms around his son, tears streaming down his face. No one could understand how much Zhang Ling doted on his son, although his son's disappearance was only for 2 nights, but for Zhang Ling, it was simply a great torment. Dad! I'm wrong. In the future I will study well and strive to be a powerful person. I will learn well from you, Dad, in the future. Zhang Tianli was now in his 3rd year of high school. He was already at the age of adulthood. Originally he was holding a full-hearted passion, and all of his heart was naive and innocent. In the past, the things he did were just too simple and too easy, so Zhang Tianli thought that he could do many things easily, but after experiencing this time, he realized that doing things could not be that simple. There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world, much less a success that could be obtained at the drop of a hat. The bruises all over his body had taught him a hard lesson, from the spirited start to the bruised and swollen nose. Jiang Ling looked at Zhang Tianli's bruises all over his body and the purple bruises on his face, and immediately guessed what kind of treatment his son had suffered before. Son, it was Dad who was wrong before. Dad used to spoil you too much, making you unaware of the evils of this world. Don't worry, Dad won't be like this again in the future. Zhang Ling's heart was also overwhelmed with guilt. Dad, I'm sorry, I won't do anything stupid like that again, and I won't worry you. The two fathers and sons incited on the spot, and the whole thing made those present both speechless and amused. After all, this kind of father-son love scene, just seen in TV dramas, this kind of scene really rarely appears. And this time the case could be said to have shaken the entire East Sea. Especially those who had been deceived. Now that they were suddenly rescued, the gratitude in their hearts could not be concealed at all. Early the next morning, the entrance to the bureau was blocked by these victims and their families right in front of the entrance. Some kept saying thank you, some kept bowing, and some prepared banners and various gifts and such. Anyway, they just wanted to thank the Golden Dragon Street Area Police Station, especially as the main person in charge of this time, Zhang Ling. The whole operation was set up and directed by him, and now everyone was rushing to Zhang Ling. Director Zhang, I don't even know how to repay you for your great kindness. Why don't I give you a kowtow? If it wasn't for the fact that Director Zhang had such a big operation this time, our loved ones would have already been sent outside the country, and we wouldn't know what kind of life we'd be living by then. Hey, Director Zhang, you are our regenerative parents. You must accept this banner, or we will be uneasy in our hearts. And these are a small token of our preparation. Director Zhang must accept them. The crowd was in a state of flux, thanking one another with an enthusiasm that was hard to beat. This made Zhang Ling a little embarrassed. Don't be like this, these are all things we should do. If you want to thank Master Lin. In fact, this time the entire operation and plan was directed by him. Zhang Ling was naturally embarrassed to take the credit, and he was also very grateful to Lin Tian in his heart. He knew that if it wasn't for Lin Tian this time, his son would definitely not be able to come back. After a night of interrogation last night, Zhang Ling had already figured out the exact situation. The more he figured out the situation, the greater the admiration and gratitude he felt for Lin Tian in his heart. Lin Tian's fortune-telling and divination skills were simply accurate to an outrageous state. He had already anticipated that Zhang Ling would be unable to hold back to spy on the news, thus achieving the state of beating the bushes to frighten the snakes, and then utilizing this beating to frighten the snakes to act out a play of shadow snakes, and then counting the scripts of these fraudulent gangs to death, and almost setting up these fraudulent gangs from the beginning to the end. Every step of the way is a masterstroke. Master Lin? The fortune-telling Taoist priest who's been so hot lately? My God, it's really him. I knew this time was not simple. It's really Master Lin's fault that he was able to wipe them out. This hand of fortune-telling of Master Lin is just like a living god. Without further ado, if I have any cases in the future I won't look for anyone, I'll just come over and look for Master Lin. With Master Lin sitting here, we'll definitely be able to ensure peace in the East Sea. This is all the second criminal gang in one fell swoop, and if all this is luck, then luck is part of strength. After being messed up like this by Zhang Ling, Lin Tian's reputation suddenly became even louder. And all sorts of voices began to pop up on the internet. Almost the entire East Sea city was discussing Lin Tian. Master Lin is mighty and so divine. In the future I'd like to see which person dares to cause trouble in the East Sea. Master Lin sitting alone can keep the four directions safe. Who says Taoist priests can't be police officers? In my opinion the profession of Taoist priests is very suitable for police officers. And Master Lin is a good example. Master Lin specializes in digging up all sorts of criminal gangs, so either you don't do it, or you do it in one fell swoop. It hurts, it really hurts. That's the way to do it. Thieves and all sorts of outlaws in the Eastern Sea, you all listen up. Whoever dares to show off in front of Master Lin, then don't blame Master Lin for being impolite. Master Lin likes to make a big scene like this. Master Lin is so handsome, so young, and so capable. I wonder if he has a girlfriend? Master Lin, I'm going to give you a child. Oh no, I'm going to give you many. In the police station. Mr. Sean, don't be like this. I'm merely working. You're making me a bit uncomfortable by doing this. You get up first. Lin Tian looked somewhat helplessly at Zhang Ling who was maintaining a bow in front of him. His eyes were full of helplessness. Master Lin, no matter what, I still have to thank you for this time. Such a great favor. Our Zhang family will always remember. As he said that, Zhang Ling's tears started to flow. Master Lin, you are right. I was too spoiled with my son before, causing me to neglect his education. This time he suffered a bit, but he understands a lot more. Do you think it's worth it? It's worth it. Zhang Ling replied with incomparable certainty. Because after this time, my son did understand a lot more and was no longer as naive as he used to be, and this kind of change is not something that can be done so easily. Zhang Ling knew that he belonged to the category of blessed by misfortune. It's worth it then, isn't it? No need to say these words of gratitude, it's all part of our duty. Chapter 25. Transfers, New Cases. At this time, Zhang Ling also knew that such a great favor could not be said in a few words. Some things had to be proved with actions, and in the future, if Lin Tian had any need for help, he would definitely not sit back and do nothing. Alright, enough of that, I'm going to work. Lin Tian laughed. He was going to try to finish this month's tasks as early as possible. Everything else was secondary. Work? Master Lin, how about this? Your status as an auxiliary police officer isn't quite enough. Why don't you just transfer to a regular job? Zhang Ling asked tentatively. Transfer? Is there more work after the transfer? Lin Tian's face was delighted. Zhang Ling really couldn't understand Lin Tian at all. He obviously had such a skill, but he didn't go to make money. Instead, he valued this job so much. Institute Zhang, what do you think is going on with Master Lin? If I had such a skill, I would have already gone on to become a billionaire. Li Huabiao was filled with disbelief. Perhaps this is the high man. What they seek is completely different from what we seek. This high man, after reaching a certain realm, what he cares about is not these worldly material things. Zhang Ling sighed. I don't know when I'll be able to reach such a realm. With Lin Tian's reputation in the East Sea at this moment, it was natural that everyone knew about it, especially for some special people inside the East Sea. They carried a strong sense of scorn. If it was just a mere one time, then it could be said that it was completely luck, but the cases that Lin Tian had solved had been several in a row, and each time they were so precise, especially these 2 times when they had been eliminated in one go, so that a lot of the lawless gangs had already backed off. To say that in the past, even if there were more powerful police officers, perhaps they still held a certain amount of disbelief. But now the ability Lin Tian had shown made them not dare to hold any hope, which had led to a particularly funny situation in the East Sea right now. The crime rate was decreasing, especially those organized criminal gangs. With Lin Tian's reputation holding them down, they simply didn't dare to strike again, and even some criminal gangs had begun to move away from the East China Sea, and the law and order in the East China Sea had become better and better recently. It also made the netizens jump for joy. Anyone who wants to live in a peaceful and harmonious city is the greatest happiness for them. No matter what time of year, no matter how good the security is, it is impossible for a city to be free of crooked people. This is what is often referred to as the crime rate. Even in Dragon City, the city with the best law and order now, the crime rate is basically 8%. But after this period of time, and the suppression of Lin Tian's public voice, the crime rate in Donghai has now dropped to 10%. Good guy, this has already caught up with Dragon City in a straight line. What's more, some of the lawless gangs moved to other cities, not daring to come near the East Sea again, which undoubtedly brought a great reputation to the East Sea. Of course, there is never a shortage of death-defying people in this world. Although there were a lot of people who were scared to death, there were also some who felt unconvinced and wanted to challenge Lin Tian's prestige. Those gangs that can be transferred naturally won't do such risky behavior, but some gangs that can't be transferred, that's a different story. Especially some special local industries, such as the industry selling milk tea. There are a lot of hotels that are like that, but whenever a guest goes to housing, it doesn't take long before you have a little card tucked away in your room, and it's anyone's guess as to what that little card is for. Even though the regulation is very strict now, this kind of industry still can't be suppressed, and as long as the industry can make money, there is no lack of some bold and daring people. Another enjoyable day today. Lin Tian was in a particularly good mood today, because he was about to complete this month's task, and with 2 more cases today, he would be able to complete this month's target task. Now Lin Tian wasn't in a hurry at all. He decided that he wanted to work on 2 big cases as a closing task. However, when he came to the station early in the morning, Lin Tian received a report from a middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman's eyes are red and swollen. The moment she saw Lin Tian, her whole body became excited. Master Lin. Oh no, Officer Lin, you can be considered to have come. Please, you must help me. Said this middle-aged woman is going to kneel down to Lin Tian. Lin Tian hurriedly went up to hold the middle-aged woman. Auntie, what is the matter? To say properly, I am a police officer. What are the difficulties? You just say, do not need to do these actions. Come on, let's sit down first. Thank you, Officer Lin. The middle-aged woman wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes before she sat down on the opposite side of Lin Tian's desk. Auntie, tell me straight, what's the matter? What's the difficulty? Officer Lin, can you help me find my daughter? Looking for your daughter? Lin Tian was slightly stunned, but quickly reacted, then smiled. Yes, that's what I should do. Give me your daughter's birth date. I'll do some math for you, said Lin Tian as he brought paper and a pen. The middle-aged woman let out a bitter smile. Officer Lin, I'm sorry to make you laugh, but don't you want to ask about the exact situation first? No need, just give me your birth date directly and I can directly help you figure it out. Lin Tian had been dealing with the case all this time. For example, in some cases of thieves or lost things, Lin Tian basically used the Chiman Bureau to directly give projections and just let them find it. Now Lin Tian has long been familiar with it. Middle-aged woman. The woman didn't say much, and directly reported her daughter's birth date. Before 5 minutes had passed, Lin Tian had already put down the pen in his hand. His face became a little odd, and his eyes towards the middle-aged woman also became strange. Officer Lin, what's wrong with you? Did you find out where my daughter is? The middle-aged woman eagerly pursued. Lin Tian only now began to carefully measure the middle-aged woman. This middle-aged woman, although the age has been more than 40, but the maintenance is very good. Wearing is not old-fashioned, relatively speaking, but also some new wave, and the face is also painted with light makeup, but also with jewelry. Looking at it is somewhat noble. Officer Lin, you should speak. As long as you can find my daughter, no matter how much money you have to pay, even if I give you my whole body value, it doesn't matter to me. The middle-aged woman's voice was choked as she spoke. Lin Tian sighed. Let me ask, what industry are you working in now? I'm in the service industry. The middle-aged woman stammered. Ha ha. Lin Tian, however, suddenly threw back his head and laughed. Interesting, just too interesting. I haven't encountered something so interesting in a long time. Interesting? What's interesting? Officer Lin, what do you mean by that? The middle-aged woman was confused. Chapter 26, Life is full of dog blood. I just think that your situation is a bit interesting, nothing else huh? Lin Tian covered his mouth and said. The middle-aged woman froze, hesitation appeared on her face, but she quickly relieved herself. Master Lin, I've heard for a long time that you're very accurate in fortune-telling. Are you calculating my occupation now? Lin Tian nodded slightly, but did not say anything. The middle-aged woman gritted her teeth. Master Lin, you counted and counted. As long as you can find my daughter and let me meet her, it's fine for me to do whatever you want me to do. As a police officer, your daughter got lost, we helped you find her, this itself is part of the job, you don't need to say this. As for the industry you are in, that is your own choice, one size fits all. Lin Tian shrugged his shoulders, he simply found it amusing, he didn't mean anything else. Then Master Lin, did you just figure out where my daughter is? The middle-aged woman hurriedly asked after him. What she wanted to know most now was where her daughter was. Of course it counts, but before that I think you'd better go to the hospital and get your health checked out. Hearing the word examination, the middle-aged woman's face changed instantly, and after a few seconds of silence, she couldn't help but applaud. Master Lin deserves to be as famous as he is, and your fortune-telling skills have convinced me. Indeed, I was diagnosed with brain cancer a few days ago, and the doctor said that I only have a few more months to live. Master Lin, I don't have any other request, I just hope to be able to see my daughter once. She was just born not long ago, she was carried away by someone else. This mother is really too guilty, counting she should have been 15 years old now, at this time she should be attending junior high school. Master Lin, just do me a favor and help me calculate where my daughter she is right now. My time is running out and I want to give her some compensation. The middle-aged woman was in tears as she spoke, and if it hadn't been for the confirmation of the cancer, she wouldn't have been able to make up her mind. People, it's always at the end of their lives that they make the big cut. Middle-aged woman called Jo Chuanli, she is a KTV accompanied by singing mom, before full of thoughts about money, full of dashing, do their line of work is indeed profiteering, these years Jo Chuanli is to earn some money, perhaps God gave her retribution. Ha ha, Lin Tian couldn't help but throw his head back and laugh. Master Lin, what the hell are you laughing at? Are you so happy that I'm sick? Seeing Lin Tian laughing out once again, Jo Chuanli could not sit still for a bit. No, I really can't help it. Well, back to the topic. Your daughter's birth date in 8 characters I've already counted. I just used the Chiman Bureau, according to the current festival, and then according to the upper and lower Sanyuan thus judging. The Chiman Bureau shown is the Daystama Wu, Xin in the Qian Palace, Xin under Xin. What about Xin under Xin? It's the Wu self-punishment, which means that open door is work, Tianqin is mastery, Taiyin is the heart, and Xin in the Qian Palace means, wearing a crown or bathing. Shower? Opening the door is work? Master Lin, are you trying to say that my daughter she works in the same industry as mine? Jo Chuanli's eyes widened at once, and her eyes instantly turned red. She herself was in this line of work and knew very well how hard it was to be in this line of work. No mother wanted her daughter to go through this kind of suffering, and no mother did not want her child to be on the right path and on the right track. How many of those dry bathing women are serious? Not only that, but the heart of heaven is mastery, which means that your daughter is on your side and has always been in your control. What? My daughter is right next to me? It's still under my control, Master Lin, tell me clearly what's going on here. Your daughter is far away. She works under your hand in a trade that has something to do with bathing. Think of how many of your hands do this. It can't be such a coincidence, right? Jo Chuanli was instantly confused, her expression becoming extremely unnatural. Life is full of dogma, maybe things are just so coincidental. I'm not going to tell you exactly which one, I think you can guess it yourself, and if you really can't, then you're going to find out. Jo Chuanli was instantly silent as she cocked her head in consideration. To say that I have a bath under my hand, well, that is indeed there is one, but if she is my daughter, then... Jo Chuanli said here when the face gradually became odd up. Jo Chuanli itself is the person in charge there, the business and arrangements underneath are assigned by her. She does have a 20-year-old girl under her hand, looks quite pretty, came over to work only the previous year, just came when this girl is very simple, don't know anything, don't understand anything. At that time were Jo Chuanli hard to push her into the industry, said her first business or Jo Chuanli line forced her to go over. More importantly, Jo Chuanli is usually quite ferocious to the girls, often give her small shoes, there are many times she has been whole. If that girl was really her daughter, that was a serious problem. How should Jo Chuanli face her again? Master Lin, you're joking with me, right? I'm not joking with you. If you think that what I counted is not right, you can absolutely take her to the hospital to do a paternity test. By then you will know if you have any blood relationship. But what I want to say is that the trigrams I counted have never been inaccurate. Lin Tian still had that confident look. That's why you're laughing, Master Lin. Hee hee, it seems like this is really God's retribution for me. Zhou Chuanli smiled to herself. Just go back and confirm the problem before you say anything, and make sure you do as I say and go back to the hospital for another recheck. Make sure it's the cut and dried kind, don't ask why, listen to me, it's the right thing to do. Although Zhou Chuanli was torn in her heart, she still wanted to make sure of this. She nodded heavily afterward, and then turned around and left with 1,000 thanks. Lin Tian, do you want to go out with me? Just then, Jiang Ming walked in and asked. That's fine, I have nothing to do right now anyway, so let's go out for a walk with you. Lin Tian knew that Jiang Ming must have encountered some troublesome case. Indeed it did, and now Jiang Ming was dealing with a single case from a hotel. The guy who called the police said he'd been ferry hopped, and the two groups are now at a standoff in the hotel. Things like this are the most troublesome, after all, the disputes here are particularly troublesome, but also encountered before, both sides are justified. It also took a lot of maneuvering to get things sorted out in the end. The two just drove to their destination hotel. Chapter 27, A Bite of a Porcupine. Now at this point in time, it is the rush hour of work, which passes through a very congested section of the road. The car travels very slowly, but the more you go forward, the more powerful the blockage, and at the end of the day, simply do not move, the entire road is almost in a state of paralysis. What's the situation? This early in the morning, although congested a bit, but not so much that it would be jammed like this, it's been more than 10 minutes and it's not even moving? Jiang Ming muttered with some anxiety. It's probably because something happened up front. Lin Tian said. It's the peak time for work, I'm really drunk with the traffic jam at this time, and now it's just less than 1 kilometer away from my destination, I'm really convinced. Jiang Ming couldn't help but sigh. There seems to be a traffic jam up ahead. Jiang Ming was now not far from the source of the traffic jam and could see the situation in front of him at a glance. Why don't we go over there and see what's going on? Good thing too, looking at this situation now, the traffic police won't be able to come for a while, since we've come across it, let's go and take care of it first, so as not to paralyze the whole lane. Jiang Ming also knew that if no one went to take care of the matter, there was no telling how long the traffic would be blocked. When Jiang Ming and Lin Tian arrived at the place of the incident, they instantly understood what was going on. There was a long distance in front of them, all of them were not traffic jammed, to now at this intersection, there were obviously a few cars collided, close together, blocking this road to death. In addition to this, there was a dark-skinned man lying on the ground howling in pain. Another very well-dressed man was standing next to him on the phone with a helpless look on his face. Seeing the arrival of Jiang Ming and Lin Tian, the well-dressed man immediately hung up the phone and walked up. Comrade police, you came just in time, hurry up and help to comment, I didn't hit him at all, he insisted that I bumped him on the ground, which is clearly a bumper car. Goo. My leg you this person is too heartless, hit a person even said that others are bumper porcelain, comrade police you can be sure to give me the lord The man lying on the ground is not the slightest bit weak, he holds his leg with one hand, while arguing in pain. I tell you, this car is installed with a car recorder, at that time my car speed is very slow, even if I really ran into you, but also will not be like this, besides, this is the intersection, here originally has a monitoring, you even have bumper, you cannot touch, so do not be here in vain, waste my time okay? The car owner said bitterly. What a waste of time, you've hit someone and you have a point. Looking at the two people to start arguing again, Jiang Ming hurriedly interrupted, okay, you guys stop talking first, it's the peak time for commuting, look at what kind of roads are clogged up right now, let's do it this way, you guys follow the normal process of taking pictures first, then move the car to the side. No, you can't move the car, I'm just going to lie here, I can't have the scene spoiled by you. The man lying on the ground balked. Are you crazy? Here is the intersection, here the monitoring has been open, the specific what condition, and so on went to the traffic police department later will know, you are here to break the skin of the play, what is the use? As long as he really is hit you, then we will do for you, but if he did not hit you, can be held responsible for your responsibility. Jiang Ming, after all, is a veteran civilian police officer, and has certain means when faced with this kind of rip-off incident. Officer, why do I feel that you are favoring him? If he did not hit me, you think I am willing to lie here? You are right, there is indeed a surveillance here, a check will know whether he hit me or not. The man lying on the ground looked like he was justified. This could make Jiang Ming whole, he can only turn to the owner of the car and ask, did you hit him or not? You ought to say hit it, in fact, this is not really, at that time my car speed is particularly slow, casually can avoid, and such a speed, even if it is hit, there will not be any harm. This is the owner of the most helpless place, to say did not hit it, it seems that there is indeed a small top collision. But these small collisions could not have caused so much damage, and at that time the man was out of the blue, and it was clear at a glance that he was the master of the bumper sticker. What's happening now is that the man lying on the ground is dead set on moving away, and it looks like he's eating up the owner of this car. The owner of the car is not a cheap car, at a glance, I know that the family must be rich, this car is also worth millions. Jiang Ming was at his wit's end for a while, just as he was about to notify the traffic police department and let them come over to follow the normal procedures. Lin Tian next to him suddenly spoke, really good now the bumper cars are also justified, and they have formed a gang to commit crimes, wonderful, it's really wonderful. When these words came out, some of the onlookers who were eating the food immediately showed a surprised expression, knowing that Lin Tian is now wearing a police uniform. Lin Tian said this is a bite of this man lying on the ground is a bumper sticker. If an ordinary person had said this, it would have been cynical in nature at best, but coming from the mouth of a police officer, it would have been of a different nature. What do you mean by that? You're saying that I'm a bumper? As expected, after the man lying on the ground heard Lin Tian's words, a hint of delight appeared in his eyes. In their line of work, it's only natural that they have to deal with the police. And today he was lucky, he just happened to meet someone who looked quite rich, and most importantly he didn't notice much at the time, and he ran out of the small collision that happened directly with him. A collision of this magnitude wouldn't give him how much damage was done, but if you go from the view of the surveillance camera, there was indeed a collision, something that can't be justified. So the man was already planning to blackmail him for a large sum of money, and the moment the police showed up just now, he had already cackled in his heart. After all, like this bumper is basically underneath the private, they say how much money, the other side will give how much money to the matter. If there is a police intervention, then the problem can become much more complicated. Lin Tian is now the identity of the police, he said this, then you can use this as a breakthrough point. Lin Tian, what are you doing? Jiang Ming was a bit surprised. Even though Lin Tian had gotten a lot of fame lately, he still had to watch his words when speaking in a public place. Master, I think there is no need to interrogate him anymore, let's just handcuff him back directly. We are really lucky today. We came out and ran into a wanted criminal. Lin Tian laughed, not avoiding it in the slightest. A wanted man? Who? Jiang Ming was taken aback.